Test, test. 1, 2, 3. Just wanted to prove I could count before we got started tonight. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here for our Alberta Next Town Hall. My name is Bruce McAllister. I'm going to do my very best to moderate us through this evening tonight. The Premier is here. Thank you for the applause coming in for the Premier. We will hear from the Premier shortly, and it's my job to ask her to keep her comments brief, so wish me luck with that tonight. We have assembled an amazing panel here this evening, and these are regular Albertans. I want you all to know that, just like you. They want what's best for Alberta, and we've asked them to step up and be a part of this, and so I hope you'll treat them right. They're giving their time to be here, to listen to you tonight, and then give your government some advice going forward. So I want to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you for being here, and remind you all as well that we're here so this panel can hear from regular Albertans, so we can get your advice going forward. We ask everyone, of course, to be respectful of one another. We fully expect people to disagree. It's what we do in Alberta, and that's A-OK, so long as we do it respectfully. And if somebody crosses that line, well, we may have to ask them to leave, but I sure hope that's not the case. I got a great feeling the majority of people in here have strong opinions and will have no problem making them respectfully. So we look forward to hearing them all, I assure you. And before I explain how the flow of the evening will go, let me first introduce to you our panel members. And panel, I'm going to ask you to stand up as I do, and then we'll give you one round of applause when you're all done. So first of all, our Premier, obviously an expert on many things, but mostly being a passionate Albertan representing you on the world stage. Premier Danielle Smith. We have Minister Rebecca Schultz, two-term MLA since 2019, Environment and Protected Areas Minister. Andrew Judson. Andrew brings nearly 30 years in capital markets and private equity, focused on energy, finance, and taxation. You'll know him because he's the Vice Chairman Prairies of the Fraser Institute. MLA Brandon Lundy from Leduc-Beaumont, elected in 2023. And Brandon, besides being very bad at hockey pools, mine in particular, is a heck of an agriculture advocate and many other things. So thank you, Brandon. Trevor Troom from the University of Calgary, an economics professor, fiscal policy expert at the School of Public Policy. Thank you, Trevor, for being here. Bruce McDonald, the former Alberta Court of Appeal Justice from 2009 to 2023, and a judge on the Provincial Court and Court of Queen's Bench. Something tells me I know where you'll be an expert for us on these issues. Bruce, thank you. MLA Glenn Van Dyken from Barrhead, Morinville, Westlock, long-serving MLA, strong advocate for rural Alberta, and a former grain farmer as well. Thank you, Glenn. Melody Garner, Skiba, experienced leader across agriculture and nonprofit sectors, and the former president of the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce. Sumita Anand is the Vice President of Business Development of Above and Beyond Care Services. She is a prominent advocate for disability services, and I believe, Sumita, the Chair of the Premier's Council on Multiculturalism. Adam Legg, the President of the Business Council of Alberta, with over 2 decades of experience in business, leadership, public policy, and economic development. Dr. Aiken Okaswati, family and emergency doctor in Didsbury and section chief for Didsbury Hospital and clinical lecturer at the University of Calgary. Dr. Aiken. Grant Fagerheim is the president and CEO of Whitecap Resources with extensive leadership in Alberta energy sector. Thank you, Grant. Michael Binion, the president of Questerre Energy and a key figure in the Canadian energy sector, particularly concerning natural gas projects. And if anybody has rowed with the people of Quebec, it's this man. So we'll hear from him tonight. Stephen Buffalo, the President and CEO of the Indian Resource Council of Canada, a proud member of the Samson Cree Nation, and a former teammate of mine on the Medicine Hat Junior B Cubs. And that was a long time ago. Dr. Benny Zhu, a registered acupuncturist with over 30 years of experience. He has led provincial projects on mental health, chronic conditions, and disabilities, providing a unique perspective on health policies. Dr. Benny, thank you for being here. And also MLA Tara Sawyer from Olds Didsbury Three Hills. Tara, a newly elected MLA representing Olds Didsbury Three Hills. I'm going to go off script and say it was great chatting with Tara. She was able to relate to me as the host what many people have been saying at the doors lately because she's done so much door knocking. So Tara, thanks. It's important that you're here. So that is our panel, and I guess we're going to get going. So let's set the stage for how things are going to go. Actually, I'll do that in a minute. Before we do that, before we hear from the Premier tonight, here's some context on what's happened the last 10 years here in Alberta, and I think what brought us all here tonight. We prepared a little video the Premier did. Could we go to that, please?
Alberta, our home. Pristine mountains and lakes, wide open pastures and fertile fields, unmatched natural resources, world-class cities, world-class people. Alberta truly has it all. We are a strong and free people, full of entrepreneurs, food producers, builders, caregivers, teachers, and a whole lot of hardworking, tough as nails, get her done grit. Our potential is as limitless as our skies. But let's face it, Alberta is being held back. Our economy has been under attack for most of the last 10 years. Frankly, off and on for decades long before then. Not by a foreign country or by world economic forces. No, Alberta's biggest threat to our prosperity and growth has come from our own nation's capital. Alberta has an Ottawa problem. For the last 10 years, Ottawa, led by successive Liberal governments propped up by their NDP allies, have taken direct aim at Alberta's core industries. Ottawa's Bill C-69 killed several major Alberta pipeline and resource projects. Their West Coast tanker ban specifically blocks Alberta oil from accessing world markets. Their excessive industrial carbon taxes and the new oil and gas emissions cap are designed to keep our world-class oil and gas reserves in the ground. And net zero mandates on everything from electricity to vehicles are causing the cost of living to increase, business costs to soar, and are even endangering the stability of our power grid in the dead of winter. And the effects on Alberta's economy have been staggering. In just the last 10 years alone, more than $500 billion, that's $500 billion, in global investment capital destined for our resource sector has disappeared. It walked away from Alberta and Canada, and instead headed off to Texas, Asia, and the Middle East, to places that welcome resource development and jobs. That cost Alberta and Canada quite literally hundreds of billions in GDP, corporate taxes and resource royalties for healthcare, education, and public infrastructure. It cost hundreds of thousands of jobs and thousands of healthy and growing businesses. It was national self-harm on a level never seen. And no province was hurt more than ours. And those costs keep building every single day. But we're not just losing investment, we're losing trust. As I said, this story is bigger than just the last decade. Alberta has been treated unfairly for decades long before that. We've built roads, rail, power, jobs, and prosperity for this country. Yet we've been told to keep quiet and be grateful while sending $20 billion a year more to Ottawa than we receive back in funding each year. In fact, since 1980, Alberta has contributed $653 billion more to federal taxes than we receive back. That means well over $500 billion went directly from Alberta to fund other provinces, mostly with economies larger than ours, through programs, transfers, and equalization. And despite this, we have continued to be the economic engine and job-creating juggernaut of this country, and have opened our province to those from every corner of Canada looking for work and opportunity. And when we point out these facts, how do Ottawa politicians and Eastern elites respond? Our concerns are dismissed, our values marginalized, our leaders vilified, and our industries remain targeted. Most Albertans are or want to be proud Canadians. We fought for this country, fed this country, and powered this country. But the status quo relationship with Canada cannot continue. It's time for Alberta to take a stand, with ideas, with facts, with our voices, and with action. If Canada is to be a strong and unified country, it must include a strong and sovereign Alberta, able to pursue our own potential without being held back by our own country. That's why we're launching the Alberta Next Panel, a province-wide series of in-person and virtual town halls where your voice, your ideas, and your values will help shape Alberta's road ahead. The Alberta Next Panel gives you a seat at the table to speak directly with industry and government leaders, constitutional scholars, and policy experts, to explore ideas for Alberta to assert our constitutional rights to prosper and become an equal partner in Confederation, and to discuss how we can protect Alberta from outside economic attacks going forward. And when the panel has finished its work, it will recommend which ideas should be put to the people of Alberta for a referendum vote in 2026. Now, I know these can be tough and emotional conversations, and that's okay. We are Albertans. We can have hard conversations and share our ideas and opinions respectfully, and stay good friends and neighbors while doing so. Because really, the vast majority of Albertans, regardless of their politics or backgrounds, all want the same thing. We want to live in a country that works for us, not against us. It's about building an Alberta that is strong, free, and sovereign within a united Canada that respects and empowers our province to achieve our full potential. And that's why I need your help, because the best ideas don't come from government, they come from you, from the shop floor, the field, the classroom, the boardroom. Albertans are doers, builders, problem solvers, and we've had enough of waiting for someone else's permission to turn that energy into even more prosperity for our province. That's why we need to take the next step. Alberta Next is about doing just that. It's about asking, what else can we do? Where else can we lead? What powers can we assert that are already ours? It's time to explore every option and to pursue every good solution. So what comes next? That's up to you. Join us this summer in your community or online. Register, show up, be heard, so our beautiful Alberta can remain forever strong and free.
I know the Premier would like to say good evening and set the stage, so Premier, go ahead.
Awesome. Great, Bruce. I've been told I only have 2 minutes, so I'm going to try to speak quickly. I don't want to take too much time this evening because we want to hear from you. And I do want to thank each of our panelists for being here tonight and for participating in this really important process as we go across the province to engage directly with you, Albertans. Central Alberta is such an important part of our province, tremendous strengths in petrochemicals and energy and agriculture and logistics. These are Alberta's most vital industries, and it is so great to be here with so many people who know how central they are to our success. And I do want to thank all of you for coming out this evening to share your thoughts with us today and for choosing to participate in this crucial engagement process. The conversations that we have tonight and throughout the Alberta Next engagement process will help to shape the future of our province. I would encourage you to go and look at the last time the government did this with the Fair Deal panel and came up with 25 recommendations. You'll be quite surprised and delighted to see how much of that has guided our work in the last 5 years. From the equalization referendum, there was a asked to reduce internal trade barriers, to create economic corridors, to challenge federal legislation. I think we've got 15 lawsuits going on in areas where they're in our jurisdiction, establishing a chief firearms officer, creating a presence in Ottawa. We now have an office in Ottawa, diversifying our energy sector, pursuing relentlessly for more market access, and referenda and citizens initiative. That's just an example of the ideas that came out of this kind of process. So we are really looking forward to hearing what you tell us you want us to do next, because regardless of what each of us believes about
the issues we're going to be talking about or what path we think is best. We as Albertans must be able to respectfully debate and discuss the issues here with our friends and our family members and our neighbors. And I know that if we do that, in the end, our province will find the best solutions for the immense challenges that we face and come out of it stronger and freer than ever. And I put my faith in Albertans to find that path. I trust you, I trust Albertans, and I sure look forward to hearing what you have to tell us this evening. Thanks for being here.
All right, thank you, Premier. Let's get started so we can hear from as many of you as possible tonight, as many of you as possible. So here's what we've done. We've prepared 6 very short videos on topics that we're hearing from Albertans on. So you know what the topics are. You may have seen it on the website, but I'll just mention them quickly. They are equalization, federal transfers, the Alberta pension plan, the provincial police force, constitutional changes, immigration reform, and provincial tax collection. So what we'll do is we'll play a video, and then we'll allow 15 minutes for discussion on that particular topic. We'll have to keep each segment to about 15 minutes. We'll stretch if we can. Moderators, I'll do my best to allow time if it's needed. If your issue is not one of those 6, as I was talking to you gentlemen beforehand, that's fine. Lee and Wade, right? You can join afterward. We'll have a half an hour for open discussion. So it might not be one of those 6. Just come up to the mic after and you'll get a chance to speak to those. We'll allow 45 seconds for your comment or a question. You can ask the panelists a question. You can just make a comment. Again, we're trying to track all this. Why 45 seconds? Well, I guess we're just trying to hear from as many as possible. And again, I'll not cut you off if you're getting to the end of it. But what we don't want is somebody to, take 10 minutes for a question and then, take 9 minutes away from somebody else. So we'll try to avoid that. After the main event, some of the panelists are going to stay here. They're going to wander around. You can talk to them one-on-one, maybe all of them, I'm not sure. Again, to get more feedback. And that's about that. So without further ado, there's 2 microphones here. If this video is something you want to speak to, feel free to line up when you see it. We're going to roll the first video now on equalization and transfers.
Our next topic is reforming federal equalization and transfers. Since 2005, Alberta taxpayers have contributed, on average, $23 billion more per year to the federal government in federal taxes than they received back in projects, benefits, and other spending from Ottawa. That's a net loss to Albertans of nearly $500 billion in just 20 years. Most of those redistributed Alberta tax dollars are spent by Ottawa and Quebec and other liberal-leaning provinces across the country. And part of that massive fiscal transfer out of Alberta comes through the Federal Equalization Program, which has seen Alberta pay over $67 billion into the program since 1957, while receiving back not a single penny since 1965. In 2021, Albertans voted in a referendum to remove equalization from the Constitution, but Ottawa completely ignored us. So what next? Alberta can't stop these federal transfers on its own. The Alberta government doesn't write a check to Ottawa each year, and we can't ask Albertans to stop paying their federal taxes. The fact is, fixing this problem will require political support from other provinces. One option that would be appealing to most other provinces is to have the provinces collect a larger share of overall taxes. This is how it could work. Currently, Ottawa collects over 60% of all the federal and provincial taxes that Canadians pay. The Ottawa bureaucracy takes its portion, with the remainder inefficiently and unequally distributed to the provinces. The dollars we do get back have a lot of strings attached, forcing us to run our provincial programs and build infrastructure the way Ottawa wants us to. No provinces want that, especially the big ones like Quebec, Ontario, BC, and Alberta. What if we cut out the middleman and instead had provincial governments that are responsible for delivering health, education, and social services collect around 60% of all taxes, with Ottawa receiving the rest? Ottawa, in turn, would be able to end most transfer programs to the provinces, along with all the strings, bureaucracy, and waste attached to them. Quebec has already proposed having the federal government let provinces keep GST revenue generated in their provinces in return for ending the federal health transfer. Seems like a great idea. Why not apply that same logic to all federal transfers? Less money collected and wasted in Ottawa. Less federal transfers with only a modest amount of equalization for the smallest provinces and territories that actually need it. And more funds for provincial health, education, and other programs, without strings attached by Ottawa's politicians and bureaucrats. That seems like something most provinces could rally behind. So what say you, Alberta? Should Alberta take a lead role in working with the other provinces to reform federal transfers and equalization by having the provinces collect a larger share of overall taxes, with Ottawa collecting less? And are there any other strategies Alberta should be looking at to alleviate the massive federal fiscal drain to Alberta? For more information, visit alberta.ca/next.
Well, I thought I'd see a long lineup at the microphones. I do see one gentleman arriving. So go ahead, sir. Lead us off.
Simple answer is yes. Would any of you tolerate a personal relationship where someone takes a large portion of the money you earn, spends some of it on joint expenses, and gives you an allowance? No, of course not. Working adult children if they choose to live with their parents, they pay room and board. Alberta's relationship with the federal government should be no different. Also, let me ask, would any of you tolerate your parents taking money from you and indefinitely giving it to your siblings? Again, no. If my brother needs help, he can come with a business plan and ask for it. And Alberta should treat the other provinces the same.
Excellent. Hey, sir, one sec. Before you leave, I'm going to break my own rule. I just want to make sure I ask everybody, introduce themselves and tell me where they're from when they come up. What's your name? Where are you from?
Blaine Sellers from Calgary.
Wayne, thank you.
Blaine.
Blaine, okay, kicking us off. Let's go over here, and there's a timer in front of you as well. So again, we'll try to keep it to 45. Thank you, Blaine.
My name is Ben Trudeau from Sylvan Lake. About equalization, there's multiple problems, and about changing the constitution, it's quite difficult in this country. I've done, before moving to Alberta, almost 20 years ago, I spent 14 years of active politics in Quebec, starting with the 95 referendum. And one thing that we've done in the referendum is changing the concept of sending too much to Ottawa versus what we're receiving. And in 98, after the Clarity Act, the government created the Secretariat for Canadian Relationship that answered to the Executive Committee or Executive Council of the government. And what they do, they basically challenge the bureaucrats in Ottawa to make sure that every penny that Quebec sent to Ottawa come back in services. And they have a staff of, I don't know how many hundreds down in Ottawa that do that full time to get money back.
Did you say your last name was Trudeau?
My last name is Trudeau, yes.
Never expected that kind of logic from a Trudeau. Thank you, Ben. That was very good. That was fabulous. We have my friend Lee over here. Go ahead. Wade. Lee's down here.
I'm Wade Collins from Sylvan Lake, and I've been running around with the Alberta Prosperity Project folks, and I've learned quite a few things. One of the things that I think I understand is that for the West to be able to become equal in this country, the Constitution has to be opened, and they've made that pretty much ironclad pretty well. It's almost impossible, and if it did get it open, as soon as there was a constitutional challenge, it would hit the Supreme Court, and there's only 9 positions on the Supreme Court. 3 are from Quebec, 3 from Ontario, 1 from Maritimes, 2 for all of Western Canada. What can we do about that? Let's leave.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll jump to a moderator from time to time, but man, I'm really going to hold you guys to the time, okay? Because we want to hear from more people. But Michael Binion, I know you're a subject matter expert on this. Do you want to make a comment on what you've just heard in like 30, 40 seconds?
I don't know about the 30 or 40 seconds part.
You have to.
Okay. Well, I'm just publishing a paper on responsible government, and I think I agree it's difficult to change the Constitution, but I'll just make the point that Canada itself became autonomous from Britain through a process called responsible self-government. As we, over many years, just demonstrated Canada's ability to govern itself, we were, bit by bit, given full autonomy, until the point we became fully autonomous. And I think that there is absolutely the same constitutional convention that allowed Canada to become independent can allow Alberta to do the same thing. We just have to keep pushing it, just the way Canada kept pushing it. I think we can do that.
Thank you, Michael. I wasn't quite 30, but it was pretty damn good, so we'll tolerate it. Next over here, sir.
Thanks. Dr. Matthew Rowley, just by Lacombe. I'm just curious. We had the referendum on equalization. Obviously, like your video said, the Fed shut it down hardcore, didn't even acknowledge it. Have we worked with the other provinces already? Have we had those talks to find a way to solve equalization, or do we have to wait to have another referendum before we're going to start that process?
Premier, please.
The referendum was successful in this regard, is that it got all of the other payer provinces and smaller provinces, Newfoundland, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan, to ask the same questions we are. Why are we, as smaller provinces, transferring money that goes essentially to Quebec, because the lion's share goes to Quebec? Newfoundland and Labrador launched a legal challenge joined by BC and Saskatchewan to challenge that notion, and what they hope to get is an agreement that all the big provinces should get the same equal per capita transfers. So there's a legal process that's going on. We're still going on with the political process, but now we've got more allies than we did before.
Yep, fabulous question now. Over here, go ahead, sir.
Hello, I'm Fable from Calgary. For all their talk about leading Team Canada, Mark Carney and the Liberals have proven that in reality they're on Team Billionaire, Team Banker. Our own UCP government has said they're on Team Alberta, but they've proven they're also on Team Billionaire, but with the CEOs of oil and mining companies instead of Carney's banks and auto industry barons. Albertans are feeling a real frustration over equalization payments. As mentioned, over $20 billion lost per year. But what we should be talking about are the hundreds of billions of dollars that are extracted from our province and our workers every year as profits for oil and gas executives. We need to nationalize the oil industry and put them under democratic workers' control to return those hundreds of billions of dollars in profits to the workers of Alberta who do the hard work. If you agree that none of these politicians are on the team of Canadian workers, the Canadian people, come talk to the Revolutionary Communist Party.
We're at 45, guys. Just cut the mic. Look, happy to try and give you more than 45 within reason. Okay, you stretched it a little long. Over here.
My name is Kit Rowley. I'm a native Calgarian, 75, and we should collect 100% of our revenue and give what we, in the end, decide we want to Ottawa.
Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm Sandra Boudreau from Innisfail. I think that I consider equalization kind of like being on welfare. Ultimately, you shouldn't plan to be on it forever. So I think that each province that receives funds should have a plan to give funds back, get to a point where your GDP is high enough to be able to give funds back to the rest of us.
Some great comments. Trevor Toome, USC, do you want to jump in and add anything, any context?
Only to note that the way the program is currently designed, it's just a function of how much a province can raise revenue at national average tax rates, and there's no conditions attached to those funds currently. So it's an unconditional transfer.
Okay.
And so having measures in place to encourage provinces to develop resources or boost their economy is not currently a feature of the program.
Thank you. And I'll remind you guys up front here on the panel, if you got a burning desire to share after you hear something, just give me a wave or let me see you and I'll call upon you. Over here.
From Red Deer. I think we're forgetting that we're Canadians over and above all else. We're Canadians. We just happen to live in a prosperous province. I think we should be very willing to bolster our fellow Canadians. Not necessarily the Liberal government, but the Canadians. We should be willing to help them out. We are very lucky to be in Alberta, to have a province that is fairly wealthy. That's it.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
I would like to comment on Mr. Trudeau's comment earlier on. Collecting their own taxes certainly has worked for Quebec. They get $13.8 billion from us. To talk about the last 10 years is not enough. We joined Confederation in 1905, and it took us another 20 years just to get the rights to our own resources. We've been begging, cajoling, negotiating, asking, you name it, for the last 120 years without effect. About 25, 26 years ago, we started a political party in Alberta called Alberta First, whose prime objective was to get the federal government in their lane and to allow Alberta to govern itself in a constitutional manner. It didn't work, and it hasn't worked since then. It morphed into the Wild Rose, and you know where that came from. So my question to you is, we cannot make these changes that we need to make unless we have a means of coercing the federal government, because we don't have the political power to do it. How do you propose to accomplish that?
Yeah. Premier, do you want to take it, Premier, or assign it to one of your...
Do you know what? I think Michael should tell a little bit more about what he was talking about, responsible government, to talk about just how much change this region has seen since its inception. You gave me the history lesson from Rupert's Land to... Can you give a little bit of that history? Because I think maybe the group here might not have seen as much change as we've actually had.
Right. Well, yeah, just from a constitutional history point of view, this was Rupert's Land. It started with the Hudson's Bay Company. It was sold to Canada in 1870, I think, which quickly was followed by 3 treaties, 6, 7, and 8. We then had the province was formed. We've had we had the Statute of Westminster that actually allowed Canada to be completely independent, or to have Canadian law be supreme to British law. And that only happened in 1930, I think, 1931. We had the Resource Transfer Act that we were just talking about in 1935. We just had the Constitution repatriated to Canada, or patriated to Canada in 82, and then we had the Clarity reference in 1999, which confirmed what I was talking about before, which is this concept of responsible government, which has been a founding principle of the Canadian Constitution really since 1763, and was first elucidated in the Durham reports of after the rebellions in the late 1830s. So there has been constant and continuous constitutional change and evolution in this country. I would say at least every generation we've had a major change, and so I'm actually very optimistic that we do have the ability here to work towards this concept of Alberta, or Westerners, improving and increasing our responsible self-government as ways to move towards more autonomy. And I think the move by the Premier to set up the sheriffs, or the Alberta Police Service, is just an example of that.
Mr. Binion, thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Brian Tubbs, and I'm from Black Falls. I have a question that I read maybe a year or so ago, that Quebec has billions of dollars under their feet in undeveloped resources. Why are we giving them anything?
Yeah. Premier, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to send it to Andrew?
I know that Michael could answer that one too.
I know he
I
can.
can tell you every single time I meet the Quebec Premier, I remind him that he has, I believe it's about a 200-year supply of natural gas right under their feet. And to get to what I think one of the earlier speakers commented on, and what Professor Toom mentioned, is maybe that should be factored in. Yeah, you can keep it in the ground, but then we're going to assign a value as if you developed it, and then we will deduct out what you're owed based on the fact that you've chosen not to develop it. Yeah. We could take the same, and we could, frankly, take the same approach with hydroelectric, because hydroelectric, they sell it to their people at a subsidy. We could say, well, you can choose to do that, but we will presume the market rate and what the revenues would be at that market rate. And if you choose to subsidize, that's on you, but you can't get that from the rest of the country. So there's 2 things that we could put in there for conditions.
You know, I love listening to what you got to say.
That's it. Thank you. Okay, we're going to allow one more question on this topic. We're going to roll to the next video. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Corwin Wilwork, and I'm from the Stettler area. Your video said it's Ottawa continues or has ignored us and will continue to ignore us. It doesn't matter what we do here tonight or what the outcome of this is. They will continue to ignore us. There's one question only, that needs to be on a referendum, and that is, do you support Alberta exiting Canadian Confederation and becoming a sovereign nation? At that point, then you'll be able to negotiate with Ottawa. Then you'll be able to negotiate with Quebec. Without that, they will continue to ignore us. If they do not know that we are serious and we can leave at any point in time, we will not ever get a pipeline to the Atlantic Ocean. It is time to put the separation question on a ballot so the Alberta people can decide. Thank you.
Thank you. I would say we're off and running, wouldn't you? The next topic will be the Alberta Pension Plan. Could we go ahead and roll that video, please?
Our next topic is creating an Alberta pension plan with the same or better benefits than the Canada Pension Plan. With a younger and more productive workforce, Alberta workers contribute about $3 billion more each year to the Canada Pension Plan than Alberta seniors receive in benefits. Alberta has the constitutional right to exit the CPP. And if we did, federal legislation says that Alberta would be entitled to a sizable share of the CPP assets that we could use to start our own provincial pension plan, so long as we guarantee comparable pension benefits for seniors. Quebec made the decision to start its own pension plan decades ago, and they have an agreement with Ottawa so that all retirees receive their full pension benefits, whether they worked in Quebec, retired there, or some mix of both. Alberta could negotiate a similar arrangement with Ottawa if we created our own pension plan. There are more factors to consider as well. Currently, virtually all investment decisions and management of the CPP is conducted by folks working in Ottawa and Toronto rather than Alberta. While the CPP's mandate is to maximize pension returns, in recent years, the CPP annual reports have shown an increasing focus on emissions reductions and DEI concerns, which do not always result in the highest rate of returns for the pension plan. CPP management has also become bloated and expensive. 20 years ago, the CPP had only 150 employees, with operating costs of $118 million. Today, it has ballooned to more than 2,100 employees with operating costs of about $6 billion. If Alberta opted to commence its own pension plan, the fund would be managed out of Alberta by Albertans, and investments could be focused exclusively on maximizing returns rather than adjusting for carbon dioxide and DEI-related objectives. With that all said, the CPP has consistently generated healthy returns and is a stable and critical source of income for seniors in Alberta and Canada. So, what are the benefits of Alberta choosing to withdraw from the CPP to create its own pension plan? 1. A big upfront payout. Alberta would get back a significant lump sum by exiting the CPP. The chief actuary in Ottawa has indicated our share would be at least $140 billion. That's plenty to start and build a strong Alberta pension plan from day one. 2. Better benefits for seniors, lower premiums for Alberta workers. Thanks to our younger, more productive population, an Alberta pension plan could result in Alberta workers paying lower pension premiums on their paychecks, or seniors enjoying higher pension benefits, or a mix of both. 3. Local control and boosting our economy. An Alberta pension plan would be managed right here at home, creating more jobs and growing Alberta's financial sector. We would also be insulated from the economic and demographic decline in Canada. Our investment decisions could also be steered clear of ideological decision-making and instead remain focused on the long-term rate of return for Alberta pensioners. But there are some risks to consider. 1. Uncertain payout. The CPP exit rules aren't clear in the federal legislation, and Ottawa is notoriously anti-Alberta with its decisions. So the size of the lump sum Alberta is offered could be lower than it should be. This could result in a lengthy court battle with the federal government, and it could lower our ability to increase benefit payments for seniors or lower premiums for workers. 2. Long-term risk. As with any pension plan, if the plan is mismanaged or Alberta's economy and demographics fall behind Canada, premiums would have to rise in the future in order to guarantee our seniors the same benefits they enjoy today under the CPP. Regardless, as with Quebec, Alberta's government would still be able to guarantee that an Alberta pension plan provide the same or better benefits to Alberta seniors as they now enjoy under the CPP. 3. Portability concerns. The Quebec pension plan and CPP have an agreement in place to ensure pensioners get the same single pension, regardless of where they worked or lived in Canada during their career. Alberta would expect a similar arrangement with Ottawa, but it is not guaranteed. So, should Alberta withdraw from the CPP and use Alberta's portion of the CPP to create our own Alberta pension plan? Or should we continue with the CPP as we do now?
Okay, reminder to keep it to 45, please, and announce your name and where you're from. Ma'am, you can kick us off.
Chris Gibson, Red Deer. My question is, you've identified the problems with a successful referendum on the CPP. My question is, can we divide up the CPP requirements so that we form immediately the contributions, current contributions, now go into an APP? Every economist will say, even if we started with nothing, we'd be further ahead. So pending the referendum, pending all of the legal battles of the Liberal government, can we then put some pressure on and say, okay, fine, current contributions will go into an APP, and we will have both the APP and the CPP pensions separately.
Thank you. So here, we're lucky on this panel. Like we tried to get a variety of experts, and one of them, Andrew Judson from the Fraser Institute. You all a fan of the Fraser Institute, by the way? Andrew, you wrote a paper on this recently, did you not? Can you check in here? I think you have to hold the button down and keep holding it down.
Thank you. Got it. To be clear, I did not author that paper, but it's convenient and coincidental that this morning the Fraser Institute did publish a report on this very matter, so I encourage you to check that out. It's published online. I think that may be an elegant solution to immediately move to a parallel system. Nothing prevents an individual having more than one plan in their personal affairs. We've got TSFAs and RRSPs. We can certainly undertake that. I'm a vehement supporter of this idea about an independent Alberta pension. That's my opinion, not necessarily that of the panel. But it's important to remember that Quebec didn't leave the pension. It never joined in the first place. And I genuinely believe that had the leadership of the day in Alberta had a look to the future at the time that decision was made, we wouldn't have joined either. We invite, no doubt, some pretty spirited debate about what amount of money we withdraw with us. Would we leave? That's inevitable, but I think we would, very quickly, make it back. So thank you for that, and I encourage you to have a look at the Fraser Institute's website on this subject.
Excellent. Excellent. I should clarify, for the panelists up here, they're all over the place on some of these issues. Their opinions vary greatly, as yours do, as you'd expect them to. So, but Andrew, that's great context. Let's go over here.
My name is Vicki Bayford from Innisfail, Alberta, and I was part of a group for the last year with Mitch Sylvester, Nicole Kimpton, and Carrie Lambert, where we were a grassroots group that started really small in February of 2024 to spread the message about the pension plan, because we feel like the government kind of went really silent on it. They brought it out hot and heavy, and then there was nothing. And then there was room for, the opposition to this idea to come in and start putting out information that was more emotional than fact-based. So what I'm asking is, now the Alberta government has put legislation in place that this has to go to a referendum now before we can pass that. We had a mandate in 2019 from the Fair Deal panel to do this. It was already a popular idea at the time, and we should be electing our representatives at the polls. So what we're asking is can we drop some of this legislation and some of this red tape to stop these things from going through?
Got it. Thanks. Premier, that one's for you.
I just want to go back because I do have the recommendations from the Fair Deal panel, and it does say provide Albertans the opportunity via a referendum to vote for or against withdrawing from the Canada Pension Plan and creating an Alberta Pension Plan. So we're trying to honor the original feedback that we got from Albertans on that. When we first came out with the plan, as you saw, the federal government disputed our number. I think we're now sort of, you saw the number that we put in there, which is very close to what Professor Toom calculated. He might be able to tell you a little bit about that calculation. So it's less than we thought we would get based on our interpretation of the legislation, but it's certainly more than per capita, which would have been around $93 billion. So we have to make we have to put it out there so that we know what's realistic and hear what Albertans say now. So that's part of the reason we're here. See if there's a reason for us to put this to a referendum.
Trevor, I'm going to save you if you don't mind. We've got a big lineup over here. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Matt Tanner, and I'm from Red Deer, Alberta. My question to all of you is, can those with PDD have their say and be part of the Alberta Pension Plan? Because I lost my job and my dad a long time ago. And it would be unfortunate to say that I would still be looking for a job, and I would probably wish I need that. Can it be possible?
Okay, thank you for coming. Thanks for your question. Premier, would I turn
I'd say
that
the
to you?
short answer is yes. There's always a disability aspect of the pension plan, and part of withdrawing from the Canada Pension Plan would be providing the same benefits. So I think that would be a part of it. I don't know if Trevor would have anything more to say about that.
Yeah, you wouldn't be allowed to leave and get any payment out of the CPP unless you set up a comparable plan. Now, it doesn't need to be identical, but it does need to be comparable, and the intent there is to ensure the benefits are not worse off.
Terrific. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Deb Stott, and I'm from Ponoka County. And I guess the first thing I want to say is I don't understand why we're still talking about this when the vast majority of Albertans said they did not want an Alberta pension plan. So why are we bringing this up again? As a retired CPA, I've got to tell you, this plan does not make economic sense. You're talking about the revenues. Let's talk just a bit about the expenses. Right now, you have a Canada pension plan that's run by 9 provinces, 3 territories that all share the costs. 100% of the costs are shared. If you go to your own pension plan, you will pay 100% of those costs yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's a valid point, and I think we did point it out in the video. Thank you. Blaine, go ahead.
As we see, there's people that are passionate about the Canada Pension Plan, and their perspective will never change. There's other people that adamantly want an Alberta pension plan. Premier Smith, I pointed this out to you several times last summer, the idea of creating an Alberta pension plan and letting people choose for themselves through their employer or through a checkbox on their tax return. There's no reason to impose one or the other on the entire province.
Can I get one of our experts to weigh in on that? Because the problem is that it's a pay-as-you-go system. So it's today's payers that are paying for today's beneficiaries. So if there needs to be some revenue that continues to go to the CPP in order to pay that debt. And that's why I think you don't have a choice of having 2 plans. I think you have to choose one or the other. I might be wrong, but let me ask Toom or Andrew if they have some comments on that.
Well, one example is the Saskatchewan pension plan does exist as a voluntary provincial supplementary pension plan in addition to the CPP, and maybe that's the idea you're referencing?
Instead of, can you say, I would write my premiums to go to an Alberta plan, and you say you want yours to go to CPP?
No, it could just be supplementary, and so that's what the Saskatchewan pension plan is as an example.
Thank you. Thank you, Blaine. Okay, this side.
Hi there. I'm Bonnie Meikle from Ponoka County also. Deb, come talk to me or the guy with the Alberta shirt if you have questions about Alberta pension plan. I was with Vicky when we toured the province, and without exception, 99% of the people in those halls were turned over to positively support an Alberta pension plan. Once they see the light, it happens. I would like to encourage the government to also vigorously have an education campaign beyond these wonderful vignettes. And we can do this with zero from Ottawa, so don't wait for them. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. It's a big lineup. Let's keep going.
Bruce,
Sorry.
when we're done, can you do a bit of a straw poll on this one? Because I've had Bonnie say 99% of the people are in favor, and I had the other woman say that 99% of people are opposed.
How about we do it when we close We'll do it when we close this subject. That's a great idea. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree we should stop talking about it. And I think the top dog in the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board got a 24% raise this year, up to, I don't know, something like $8 or $10 million, because he needs to buy a turkey or something like that. But I think if we just stop sending Ottawa money, we would have so much in this province, our new country, that we would get her done in no time.
Awesome. We're running out of time on this one, and there's a huge lineup. So go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kyla Court from Red Deer. I've heard lots of talk about the increased benefits for seniors, and I just wanted to ask, I guess, if there's been consideration to an amendment for the death benefit. A $2,500 taxable death benefit is this bit of a slap in the face. Also, a survivor's pension only allows the surviving partner up to a maximum of one full pension allocation, and when we have two people working outside of the home, that's not a lot of extra that survivor might be, well, it's less than what two living partners would receive. So I just would love there to be some consideration of that, especially if you don't have any children or disabled children and you pass away as a single person, your family's receiving a slap in the face.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what we're going to try to do here, okay? So I'm going to come over here for one more, and I'm going to go there for one more. While I'm over here, can you guys discuss sort of what it is you all want to comment on, and then maybe whatever hasn't been hit on, we'll go to that person. And over here, sorry, we're down to one as well, so go ahead.
Hello, my name is Eric. I'm from Red Deer, and it's great seeing that there might be lower contribution rates and higher payouts, but we've heard that lie before from the Alberta Prosperity Project. When they thought that we were going to get 53% of the CPP, $200 billion is a lot less. How can we guarantee that we're going to have those payouts?
It's a great question. One more comment, we'll do our poll.
Hi, Colin from Black Falls. I think the Alberta Pension Plan, personally, is the biggest leverage tool we have in any kind of negotiations with Ottawa, whether it's on the independence front or whether it's on getting us a better deal in Confederation.
Okay.
Either way, I think something has to be done with that, and I think the Alberta Pension Plan is. Did we ever get any number back from the chief actuary in Ottawa?
I don't think it was an accurate one. Premier, we did though, didn't we?
No number from the chief actuary, but a clarification of what their interpretation of the formula is, and that leads to something roughly the $140 billion quoted in the video.
So no is probably the answer.
Which is the same answer we always get from Ottawa.
That's it, entirely. So, okay, straw poll. I guess the question is, how many of you support an Alberta pension plan over CPP? How many of you support the current CPP? Okay, well, I think we know who the majority was. Thank you for your feedback. If you didn't quite get to the front of the line and get your comment, I'll tell you what, we got a half an hour at the end. Save it for there. We'll roll to the next one. Okay. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. Real quick.
Our next topic is
Well,
the
sorry.
potential creation.
Sorry, that's my fault because I told him to roll the video and then you guilted me into trying to let you go. So what I'm going to do is let you go first in the end, okay? Now let's see the video for the next topic, which is on constitutional change.
Our next topic is the potential creation of an Alberta police service to take over community policing from the RCMP. Today, roughly 80% of Albertans are served by local municipal police services, such as the Calgary, Edmonton, and Lethbridge City Police Services. However, Albertans living in most rural communities and a few mid-sized cities like Red Deer, Fort McMurray, and Airdrie are policed by the RCMP under Alberta's policing contract with Ottawa. And as is the case with most federal agreements, Alberta is getting shortchanged. To be clear, RCMP police officers and staff aren't the problem. They do all they can to protect us with the resources they have. The problem is Ottawa. Because the federal government is failing to provide the number of promised officers and resources to Alberta communities under the policing contract, response times are slow, staffing is stretched thin, and officers are often moved across the country at a moment's notice, resulting in little connection to the Alberta communities they serve. Furthermore, because of French language requirements, English-speaking Alberta officers do not qualify for senior RCMP positions. And ultimately, the RCMP's policing priorities are chosen by the federal government in Ottawa, rather than the provincial government in Alberta. Even the federal government itself has recently stated the RCMP should transition away from contract policing when current agreements expire in 2032. Ontario and Quebec have had provincial services for over 100 years. Why not Alberta? So, what are the benefits of Alberta withdrawing from the federal policing contract and creating our own provincial police service to provide community policing? 1, more local, more accountable. An Alberta police service would be run by and for Albertans, accountable to our province and not to the federal government in Ottawa. Police officers and support staff could build long-term careers in the Alberta communities they know and love. And any current RCMP officers and support staff working in Alberta would be invited to join a new Alberta police service. 2, safer rural communities. With local recruitment and stable placements, rural response times would improve considerably from where they are now, and coverage would become more reliable and tailored to each municipality and region. This is especially important in underserved rural Alberta communities. 3, flexible, made-in-Alberta solution. Most Albertans already have local police services. The province would assist larger communities like Red Deer, Fort McMurray, and Airdrie to transition to their own police services, while smaller, rural communities would be policed by the new provincial police service. And of course, nothing would change for Edmonton, Calgary, and other communities that already have municipal police services in place. But there are also potential drawbacks to consider. 1, startup costs. Establishing a new police service requires significant initial investment. Hiring officers, buying equipment, building training infrastructure, and training personnel. Ultimately, the startup costs could reach into the hundreds of millions over several years. 2, loss of some federal operational funding. The federal government currently covers 30% of RCMP contract policing costs. It is therefore likely that there will be additional ongoing operational costs for the province. However, municipalities would not be saddled with those costs. So, should Alberta create an Alberta Police Service to take over community policing from the RCMP?
A long lineup, so let's get to as many as we can, and we'll start on this side.
I started policing in the RCMP in Alberta in '82, retired in 2005. We used to be Canada's finest, and as we slowly went on, we became the Walmart of policing, doing more with less. We have to have our own police force here. Have to. Ottawa has too much say in what goes on in the provinces. And that 30%, they get more than that back. All you have to do is have a big thing in Kananaskis, and they strip the detachments of members. So please, do what's best for the people here. I love the RCMP, but not anymore. It's a different police force.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Dakota Elliott. I'm from Penhold. First, I want to thank the panel for coming out tonight and having all of us get our say. When it comes to an Alberta police force, the video makes it sound as though we're standing it up from nothing, but we already have the Alberta Sheriff's Branch, of which I'm a member. They already carry out a lot of the policing efforts in rural Alberta. Could we not simply add a new branch to the Sheriff's Department to fulfill this policing role to help short-end some of those startup changes and costs?
Yeah, thank you. And this is exactly the kind of feedback we're hoping to get. Thank you for your service as well.
Shane Meikle from Ponoka County. Yes is the short answer, but I'd like to ask the Premier a question. Her and I talked about this a long time ago, and I'd like to know, the one concern that I have is that there should be an elected police commissioner, and there should be a citizens oversight committee for our police service. Otherwise, we're passing one master to another master, and I'd like to know if that's in the plans.
Well, let me deal with both of those last comments, because to our sheriff who came up to the mic, we have about 650 sheriffs that could already qualify with their current credentials to be recognized as police. So our first step was hiring a chief, which we did. And the next step will be identifying those who have the credentials to become police. And so we are going to be rolling out additional detachments. We have fugitive apprehension team, scan team, which shuts down drug houses. We've got our border security. So yes, we are building that up. And I hope in the not too distant future, it's going to be at least double in size. And yes, as well, Shane, we have already established the framework for a police commission oversight of this body. It's the Independent Policing Commission. I think we've already just announced the commissioner last week. Bruce does our appointment, so I think he might, if I'm speaking out of school, he might know that it's coming or that it's already gone through. And so, but we haven't chosen for them to be elected. So let me take that one away. Right now we've got independent citizen police commissions in all of our municipal forces. We appoint about 3 members from the provincial level to them. The cities then appoint the rest. But I'll take that back to see if there's some value in having the police commissioner also be an elected role.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good evening, panel. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. I spent the last 3 winters down in the United States, and I've never been so proud to be a Canadian as when I came back this year and I'm selling my place down there. But I'm worried about here, because I came tonight, I had a lot of trouble getting a ticket, and I see a lot of empty seats, and I make a very quick suggestion: sell them for $5 each, raise $3,000 to give back to this community, and then the people that don't show up are at least going to be out something. So let's get this place full of all of the Albertans who want to share our ideas with you. Very quickly, I am saddened, I think, to see this is the best we've had, a little bit of both sides of the questions. We're asked, Ottawa sucks, Ottawa's awful, Ottawa's terrible. Let's be balanced.
Oh.
I mean, let's have.
Okay.
It's a gray world.
I'll tell you how balanced we are. I just gave you like 15 extra seconds. That was very good. Thank you.
That's another concern as you go onward.
Although I suggest, anyway. Okay, over here.
I must apologize. My wife reminded me I didn't identify myself when I came up with a question in the previous topic. My name is John Reel. I live in Ponoka. Regarding the Alberta Provincial Police Force, congratulations, Premier Smith. And another comment I'd like to make is I'm an ardent supporter of you and the things that you're trying to do in this province, just in case that didn't come across in the first
Thanks, John.
And thanks to the RCMP officer and the sheriff. I support them and I appreciate their service. I'm a former military officer, and the comment I'd like to make is this. The RCMP is a paramilitary organization. The responsibility is to higher authority, that's Ottawa, not to Alberta and not to Alberta's people. The other comment I'd like to make, and I'll keep it right on the nose, we don't need a referendum to get an Alberta provincial pension plan. We do not need a referendum to get an Alberta provincial police force. You can evaluate what you're seeing in these meetings that you're having throughout the province, and you can just do it if you want.
John, thank you. Go ahead.
Vicki Bayford again, Innisfail. So one of the things, actually I'm just going to add on to what Shane had to say actually, is we need to make sure that I 100% agree with an Alberta police force. I'm so glad that we're taking that direction. But we, more importantly, have to make sure that we're not going to create a mini version of what the RCMP have. Because even within our city municipalities and our police forces we have there, we do have big bureaucracies and we do have some corruption. So we have to make sure that the legislation changes, that makes sure that they're there to protect the people, not the government.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Ron Schultz from Clearwater County. I 100% support an Alberta Police Service, but I don't know that that's going to help the problem. The problem is the catch and release program.
Yeah.
Because I know at least a half a dozen staff sergeants that have retired from the RCMP force, and they all left for the very same reason, is their hands are tied, and that same guy, before they get their paperwork done, the guy is back on the streets. We have to figure out a way to keep them in custody and serve the time that they deserve.
Yeah.
And
yeah, 100%. And you probably know Minister Mike Ellis has been pushing really hard for that reform from the federal government. I mean, he's on about it every time he's asked. And we see your point. Premier, I'm hesitant to let you in because I know that this is a passionate one for you.
All I would say is that the Prime Minister did ask the premiers if he could be at our meeting next week, and this is one of the priorities that we have, is going back to the way things used to be, where bad guys were kept behind bars rather than released. So we'll see if we can get some progress this time.
Here. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jordan Staudinger here. I'm from Red Deer County. I'm also president of the Medicine River Crime Watch Society. So we work with the various police forces locally. A lot of the issues have been brought up. I don't know if it has been mentioned, but the RCMP have not been able to fulfill the numbers of officers that they are required and contracted to the province. That's one issue. Of course, like Ron said, the biggest issue, I think, is the catch and release, which is literally gives these officers PTSD, and a lot of these guys, the police officers themselves, are good people. But I guess my question would be, is this Alberta Police Force basically a transition of the sheriffs? Because we know the sheriffs have been expanding, and I think there's 6 branches to the sheriffs already. So they have been growing, expanding, and expanding their capabilities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Premier, you've got to add context because I know these. Somebody want to talk about these numbers?
Yeah, well, I just want to make it clear to a lot of people that may not know it, but Alberta did have its own provincial police force from 1917 till 1932. And it was forced to do that. The main reason being is that the Ottawa government hauled most of the RCMP officers that were doing provincial policing to help with matters with the war effort or something down east. So the province on short notice created the Alberta Provincial Police Force. It was well regarded by the citizens of our province while it existed. Unfortunately, come 1932, our province was absolutely bankrupt and the force had to be disbanded. That's the reason there was no more Alberta Provincial Police Force. But it was done once before, and it was a good force.
Thank you. Premier, you have to address the numbers issue.
Well, here's, I guess, the question is, yes, we're giving policing functions to the sheriffs, and right now it's a parallel entity. So we have got RCMP that will police many of our rural communities, municipal governments that will police others, and sheriff's detachments that will be deployed in communities that want them as well. So it is, at the moment, being elevated to be an equivalent police force. The question comes in 2027, do we serve notice to the RCMP that we're going to take over that full function? Or do we continue on having the RCMP continue to do a community policing role? So yes, we're letting municipalities make the choice of what type of policing they have, and some are choosing sheriff's detachments, and they will have the same equivalent training in order to be able to do that job.
Okay, thank you.
Gary Anderson, I'm from Red Deer. My concern is unjustly putting pastors and protesters in jail
Gary?
For free speech.
Can I stop you for 1 second? I'm all about free speech, but let's save it for the 30 minutes at the end, if you could.
It's policing, is it not?
Oh, okay, my bad. Okay, yeah, I guess so.
That's the
okay, fair.
Basic, short,
fair.
Short
Yep.
question.
Fair. I'm not sure how to address that, Premier. Go ahead.
we did shore up the Bill of Rights to include freedom of expression, property rights, the right to choose to have or not have a medical treatment, including vaccines. And so we've put a lot in the governing legislation for police. A Bill of Rights is supposed to be paramount to all of the legislation that we have in Alberta. And so we wanted to put direction in there that we expect those rights to be honored. So that's how we've attempted to change it.
So what I'm thinking is it the federal government, federal police, or will Alberta policing, who's putting these guys in jail? Is it the federal or provincial?
It was municipal forces and some of the RCMP, I think, are the ones that I saw. But we now have a governing document that says we'll do things differently in Alberta.
100%. And Gary, sorry about that. My mistake. I see where you were going. Okay, let's jump over here.
My wife and I are from Lacombe, the Armstrongs. We are totally opposed to all these proposals that you're considering. The provincial pension plan, the police force, the income tax collection system, these are all going to cost Albertans a lot of money. And I don't think that you're considering the costs of all this. The other thing, I would echo the earlier comment, this whole process is extremely biased. The panel's online survey, the so-called online survey of public comments, is completely biased, as are all these presentations. There is no attempt to present an unbiased comments. The members of the panel cannot consider the findings of these meetings and the surveys as a true reflection of public opinion.
Gary, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we got one more, and then I want to do a poll. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm the last one. I feel special. Hi, I'm Megan. I have lived in Red Deer my entire life. My concerns about an Alberta police force, I'm neither for nor against, but just in terms of cost, I know that in the city of Red Deer this year we're budgeted $36 million, which is a $3 million increase just for our city alone, which is huge. Cost per officer at $212,000 per year, and that's just for 2 officers that were added to the budget this year. I have a concern about sort of co-mingling, I guess, of provincial and federal jurisdiction and law, particularly when we look at jurisdictions like Halifax, where they both have a municipal police force as well as their RCMP. So just wanting the panel to take those types of things into consideration.
Excellent. Thanks for making the point. So one of the things that I wish I would have done when we asked the poll on the pension plan was take an actual count. So we're gonna do that. Bit of a poll. Josh, can you and your team do that? Let's start with the police force. Those in favor of an Alberta police force over the RCMP, leave your hands up, please.
While we're counting, I might just give the story of Grand Prairie, just because people are concerned about the cost here. Grand Prairie has 55 RCMP officers. They did an analysis of what it would take to move into their own municipal force. And what they determined is they could either save $8 million or double their force to 110 officers. So they've made the choice to double their complement of officers. And when they went out to ask for resumes, they had over 200 people apply to it. So that's why we want to be respectful of what's happening in each community. They went to make the choice of going municipal instead of RCMP, but others are doing that same kind of analysis.
Okay, Josh, I can't see you. I'm going to assume you got all the counts because I'm going to ask these hands to come down, and those who are not in favor of our own police force. So those in favor of keeping the RCMP. Well, that shouldn't take long to count. Okay, let's do the second one. That's the pension plan. Who is in favor of an Alberta pension plan? And just leave your hands up, please. Okay, so Josh, I hope you're getting close and you're counting fast because this is awkward as heck. Okay. Who is opposed to the Alberta Pension Plan? Okay. Josh, I'm sure you can count that. Let's go to the next video and the next topic, constitutional changes.
Our next topic is Alberta taking a lead role in working with other provinces to pressure the federal government to amend the Canadian Constitution to empower and better protect provincial rights. The Canadian Constitution, including its Charter of Rights of Freedoms and sections on the division of powers between the federal and provincial governments, is foundational to our democracy. The enforcement of the Constitution by governments and the courts ensures our rights and freedoms are protected, and that our provincial and federal governments generally function as they should. But no document is perfect. Some things that made sense 150 years ago may no longer make sense today. That is why the Constitution contains an amending formula that permits the Constitution to be altered should enough provinces and the federal government agree to it. Over the last decades, several outdated and unfair problems with the Constitution have been identified, but no tangible progress has been made to fix them, due primarily to a lack of federal and provincial leadership. Examples of proposed constitutional reforms include the following. 1. Amending the division of powers to indicate that core areas of provincial jurisdiction, including over natural resources and health, are immune from federal legislation, and to also ensure that in shared areas of jurisdiction, such as agriculture and immigration, provincial laws prevail over federal ones. 2. Imposing constitutional limits on the federal spending power in areas of provincial jurisdiction, including a provincial right to opt out of federal spending measures with proper compensation should they so choose. 3. Adhering strictly to representation by population in the House of Commons. Right now, those living in smaller provinces are greatly overrepresented when compared to those living in larger ones. 4. Either abolishing the Senate entirely or having it actually represent provincial interests as originally intended by mandating an elected Senate with the same amount of senators representing each province. 5. Allowing provinces to appoint their own King's Bench and Court of Appeal justices, rather than having those appointments made by the federal government. 6. Expanding the Supreme Court to allow for more justices from Western Canada and making prior service on a province's Court of Appeal a mandatory requirement of becoming a Supreme Court justice. 7. Eliminating the Ottawa residency requirement for judges on federal courts to ensure more Western Canadian representation. And 8. Mandating provincial approval of the appointment of a lieutenant governor to a province by the federal government. There are, of course, many other potential constitutional amendments that are worth discussion, but this is a start. So, should Alberta take a lead role in working with other provinces to pressure the federal government to amend the Canadian Constitution in order to empower and better protect provincial rights? And if so, which of the amendments discussed or other proposals should the Alberta government advocate for?
Excellent. I know we have our own constitutional expert and judge on the panel. Mr. McDonald, be prepared. I'll come to you in a bit. But first, let's get as many comments as we can from the floor, starting here.
Good evening. Joel Mullins, Spruce Grove. Evening, Premier, panelists. I would quote Metallica in this case, nothing else matters. The foundation of this country is truly rotten. It's built in such a way that the West is little more than a colony of the East. The East is politically empowered, the West is politically muzzled. You have representation in the House of Commons that is unequal between the provinces. It favors Eastern provinces. You have New Brunswick, for example, with 86,000 people per MP. Meanwhile, in Alberta, we have 134,000 people per MP. How's that right? How is that just? The Senate is even worse. So broadly, yes to everything in this video, and this needs to be the priority. You can't fix the country if you don't fix the foundation. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is John. I am from Trochu, Alberta. My question is going to be about why we are even talking about changing the Constitution that we know is a raw deal for us. And why don't we move towards a republic? We're talking about abolishing a Senate. We already have an example in the United States of like there is an equal Senate across states. We could have the same thing here across Canada. It is Canadians. I think that we should have a united Canada. I think the Constitution, and I saw it in the video, why we have a King's Bench or we have a lieutenant governor. I don't agree with either of those things. I think that Alberta should actually declare our independence, create a republic, and then unite with Canadians. And I just want to know where we're at. Instead of doing a referendum within the Constitution, how do we actually engage as a sovereign nation, a country of Alberta?
Gotcha. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi there, John from Pinoka. Just had a quick question here. Amending Articles 21 through 24 of the Senate under the 750 rule, it would need Ontario and Quebec consent, right? Which seems unlikely. How can an Alberta referendum overcome the opposition to Senate reform? Or is separation referendum with growing support a more viable path for Alberta's interests?
Okay, Bruce, Your Honor, I don't know if you can answer that specifically, but would you like to weigh in and provide a little context with your experience?
Yes, I will. I'd like, under our Constitution, there's an amending formula. It's in Section 38, and it covers most potential amendments. There's some that I'll get to in a minute, but the one that the gentleman was dealing with would be covered by Section 38, which says amendment to the Constitution of Canada may be made by proclamation issued by the Governor-General under the Great Seal of Canada where so authorized by A, resolutions of the Senate and the House of Commons and resolutions of the legislative assemblies of at least 2/3 of the provinces that have in the aggregate, according to the then latest general census, at least 50% of the population of all provinces. I haven't done the math, frankly, but it may well be that there could be an amendment as long as it had the support of Ontario and Alberta and the other provinces and not have Quebec. You just have to find out how much of their population, and we would assume, let's assume for sake of argument, they wouldn't be in the 2/3 of the provinces, but they may not have enough population to stymie it. So it is possible. Now, I have to point out there are certain amendments that require unanimity, and that means all provinces, and it's very much of a straitjacket, but it wouldn't apply to what the gentleman in question was asking about, in my opinion.
Okay. I knew there was a reason we recruited him, Premier. I knew there was a reason. Go ahead.
Yes, Bernard Trudeau, Sylvan Lake. The Constitution cannot really practically be amended. That was the problem in 95 with Quebec, because the 750 rules brings in the Atlantic province who have the most to lose in changing that Constitution. They are the ones that receive the most money out of the equalization per capita in the country. Secondly, I believe that we have a lot of power within the Constitution right now that if Alberta start acting the same way as Quebec act, for instance, Quebec voted internally against the Constitution that their MLA don't need to pay allegiance to the Crown. They kicked out the Lieutenant Governor in 2023. And right now they're voting to defund it, defund the function. So I believe that if we just, as Albertans, take the power that's within the Constitution, we can make enough difference with the way we have to change the Constitution by default.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Trudeau. Over here.
Hello, Travis Frank from Red Deer, Alberta. My question is, have we ever considered looking into, instead of using Senate as a second look at laws and legislation, have we ever considered citizen assemblies, which are groups of citizens that are chosen non-partisanly at random, and they vote on legislation regularly? There's some European democracies that have utilized this, and I think it would be good for boosting citizen involvement and well as voter apathy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the challenge when you have the volume of legislation that comes through is you probably wouldn't be able to do a citizen assembly as an oversight for every piece of legislation. But for the big things you can. I think they tried to do that for electoral reform a couple of times, once in British Columbia and I think once nationally. Our solution has been to allow for citizen-initiated referenda. That's the mechanism that we've used to allow citizens to have a choice. But I have seen that there are circumstances where a citizen assembly can work.
Go ahead.
Dakota Elliott from Penhold. With regards to amending the Constitution, one way that we might be able to get Quebec on our side is by playing to their sense of patriotism as we are riling up our own. If we make it out as though they will be getting equal benefit to us because they are being underrepresented by Ottawa, because it is the federal government that selects their senators, not them, they might be able to come on side. And with regard to the rest of these advances in the Constitution, thank you for pushing forward Sir John A. Macdonald's vision of Canada, a proper confederation of provinces and territories.
All right. Keep it going over here.
Two quick points. Shane Meikle from Ponoka County. Two quick points. The first one is there's only one person in this room that can call for a constitutional convention, and I would like to know what's holding up on that. The second thing is why are we not hammering, as it was brought up before, the Statute of Westminster? Why are we not hammering Ottawa with that? Because that gave the sovereignty to the provinces, not to Ottawa. So why are we not hammering Ottawa presently with that statute?
Shane, thank you.
I think at the end, if we're going to ask a question, I'll get people thinking about it now, I have pondered whether it is time for us to have another constitutional convention. If it is time, because the last time we did Meech in '88, which turned out not so well, and then we did Charlottetown, which the people ended up voting down. But we're now 30 years on from that. So I know everybody's probably scarred, those of us who remember that whole experience. But is it time for us to get together and really start hammering this out? So maybe we can just get the sense of the room at the end on that.
Yeah, okay. Over here.
Yeah, Jordan Staudinger, Red Deer County here. I guess my observation, to the best of my knowledge, the original Constitution of Canada of 1982 was never fully ratified. So why would we give Quebec a veto power over something that they never had full support of in the first place? I guess, yes, absolutely. We need to, I think Benoit Trudeau is a big proponent of this. We need to look at what Quebec is doing and do everything that they are already doing here in Alberta. And that would get us a lot closer. Why are we asking Ottawa all this stuff? Alberta could be the richest place in the world. We are the richest place in the world.
Yep. I know Michael Binion would like to add to that one.
Well, the one gentleman stood up and said that they heard that there's enough gas in Quebec to supply it for 200 years, and it was my company, Questerre, that discovered that gas, and I've been working there for 25 years. By the way, a lot of people think I'm from Montreal. My grandmother was born in Red Deer, Alberta. And so my family were homesteaders in this area, and we're founders in Leslieville, right? Anyways, I spent a lot of time in Quebec. I worked very closely with Lucien Bouchard. Jacques Parizeau was a shareholder of my company, and I saw up front how they exercised political power in the country very closely. And I know we all think it's because you have more votes. 44 Liberals were sent from Quebec in this last election. 46 Conservatives were sent by Saskatchewan and Alberta this last election. So they're not really completely outvoting us. But what they do in Quebec is exercise political power, and they do a lot of that through this thing that I've been talking about, responsible self-government. They've spent 2 generations learning how to manage their own money, police themselves, collect their own taxes, make private deals with the government between the Quebec and them to manage their own immigration. And these are the kinds of things that Alberta has not been doing as aggressively as they do. And I think relative to the Constitutional Convention, I think it's an excellent idea, and I think we should be trying to exercise political power. Just as the Clarity Reference Act said, or reference judgment said, law follows political legitimacy. Quebecers understand that. You have to create the political legitimacy before you try to change the laws.
Okay.
Hi, Chris from Red Deer, and surprisingly enough, I'm a great niece of Sir John A. Macdonald, and I want independence for Alberta. So, long and short of it is, Premier Smith, can you tell me why you are not yet calling a convention or conference on the Constitution? Now, I know it's likely going to fail. I know it's likely going to be another charlatan, but I think we need that for legitimacy.
Well, I need some. I was just a university student when we went through the first couple of rounds. I'd probably need some guidance on even how to do that. I don't know how the last ones got called. I don't know if it was a coalition of premiers who said that we needed to do this, or if it was because Quebec didn't sign on in 1982, everybody felt a great desire to try to create some kind of mechanism so that they would come in. I don't know if it's initiated by the federal government. I don't know if you know, Bruce, or any watchers of political history who can give me some guidance on that.
Well, I'm going by memory here a long time ago, but I think it was the federal government that really took the then federal government took the initiative on that.
Okay. We got a couple minutes left on this one. Can I move it along? Premier? Yep. Okay, over here.
Hi, Paul from Ponoka. You talk about the Court of King's Bench. I believe the Northwest Territories already has its own Supreme Court. Why can't we get rid of the Court of King's Bench in Alberta and have an elected Supreme Court here?
If I might just respond to that, the Court of King's Bench of Alberta and the Alberta Court of Appeal are Alberta courts. It's kind of an anomaly of our Constitution that the senior courts of our country are appointed by, the judges are appointed by Ottawa. But the rest of it, the infrastructure, the support staff, and the composition, structure of the court itself is a provincial matter. So it's Alberta that used to be the Supreme Court of Alberta, then it got merged with the District Court to become the Court of Queen's Bench, and then that name changed when, of course, the Queen passed away. But these are Alberta courts, but it's an anomaly, say I, that the federal government gets to appoint it, and that can be changed by amendment.
I absolutely hate having to rush you, anybody, on some of these topics, but I'm doing my best to keep everybody on time. And I know immigration is next, and that's going to be a big one. Premier, did you want to ask a straw poll question on this one?
I mean, if it was possible for me to, as I mentioned, the premiers and the prime minister are getting together next week. If I could get a coalition of premiers willing to sit in a room together and go through the process of trying to amend the Constitution, is that something we should do, or is that something we should not do? So that's sort of the straw poll question.
All right, all those in favor, should we do that? Okay, all those opposed? I think we got the hint. Okay, the next topic, the next video is on immigration reform.
Our next topic is Alberta taking more control of the immigration system to counter Ottawa's open border policies, which are driving up the cost of living and are not aligned with the needs of Alberta's economy. In just over 100 years, Alberta's population has grown from a few 100,000 farmers, ranchers, and First Nations peoples to a province of over 5 million, with one of the most prosperous economies in the world. This great success story would not have been possible without new Albertans moving here from all over the world. That is why Alberta has always welcomed newcomers looking to contribute to our province's economic success and unique culture, and we always will. However, as all Canadians intuitively understand, the number of newcomers entering the country each year needs to be sustainable, and everyone wanting to come should be committed to upholding the Canadian values of hard work, love of freedom, and peaceful coexistence. Sadly, Justin Trudeau's Liberals upended Canada's immigration system for over a decade by instituting an open borders policy that permitted millions to enter Canada each year, often without any sort of proper vetting, job prospects, or needed employment skills. The results have been disastrous. Housing prices have skyrocketed. Unemployment keeps increasing as immigration outpaces job growth. And sadly, many of the divisions and disputes that plague other countries have begun making their way into ours. Further, Ottawa has ignored the request of Alberta to cut refugee claimants and student visas, and instead permit Alberta, like Quebec, to select a more sustainable and targeted number of economic migrants better able to contribute to our province's economy. what can Alberta do about the situation? Quite a bit, actually. You see, under the Constitution, immigration is a shared area of responsibility between the federal and provincial governments, which makes sense. Essentially, the federal government gets to decide who they let into Canada, but it's up to the provinces to provide the vast majority of the social programs that newcomers need. So obviously, we should have a say about who is coming here. If Alberta isn't satisfied with the number or economic qualifications of newcomers moving to our province, we may have the option to withhold provincial social programs to any non-citizen or non-permanent resident who does not have an Alberta-approved immigration status. This would likely encourage more sustainable numbers of immigration overall, while supporting the entry of newcomers that can contribute to our provincial economy. If Alberta went this direction, Ottawa could decide to fight Alberta on this issue in the courts, and there would be some additional costs in taking a more hands-on approach to immigration. However, much, if not all of that cost, could be offset in corresponding savings to our social programs. So, should Alberta take more control of the immigration system in this way, or continue with the status quo? And how can our province convince Ottawa to act more responsibly with their immigration policies in the future?
Okay, so we're going to do this one a little bit differently. We have 3 people on the panel who are first-generation Canadians. And I'll tell you, if you want perspective on how things have changed, that's the place to get it. Dr. Zhu, Dr. Benny, can I call on you just to put into context how and when you came here and how things have changed, what you see?
For sure. Yeah, so I came to Canada in early 90s. So come from a family in practice of traditional Chinese medicine. I'm a 3rd generation. So in early 90s, a doctor in China makes about $50 Canadian monthly. That's pretty low back then. So my father was try to figure out where they should go so his children can have the brightest future. So after thorough research, he decided we should come to Canada. So we came here early 90s, and we settled in Alberta, and we never left. So at the time, acupuncture, of course, that's what we do, was not regulated, was not recognized. Most people don't even understand such thing exists. But now you look at it, it's very much widely accepted and professionally regulated. So it shows Alberta back then, we had a lot of opportunities for newcomers, for new immigrants like me to call it home and to make a career. So, but in a recent survey worldwide, Canada is falling off the top choices for newcomers, especially for skilled workers.
Yeah, why? Give it to him straight. What's changed? What do you think?
Well, this is not a place perceived to be a business-friendly country or a business-friendly supportive country. So this is more of a socialized country, and skilled workers doesn't want to come, period.
All right. Thank you. And I hope Dr. Benny stays around and you get to chat with him afterward. I'm telling you, a remarkable story and perspective on how things have changed and the type of people that the federal government's bringing into Canada as opposed to back then. Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Darcy Clark. I live in Red Deer. I'm a native of Red Deer, born and raised. I've seen this city change. You can't even recognize it anymore for all the immigration that's came in. And I agree with you, Doctor. Lots changed in the last 20 years. But the quality of people coming into our country do not assimilate to our cultures. I know they bring their own culture, but they expect Canadians to change with their culture. And I don't agree with that. I think the churches, the religions and everything else, you're fine to practice what you believe in, but we should not have to change.
Thanks for coming up. Okay, we're gonna get to as many as we can. I know people want to speak to this. Let's go over here.
Thank you for this opportunity. I have a question that concerns nearly 7% of Alberta's population. Today, Alberta is a home for about 340,000 Ukrainians, and historically Alberta was home for newcomers from Ukraine for centuries. We who recently came through the quiet program are asking, why is there no pathway to permanent residency for us who employed full-time and paying taxes, while people from other countries are eligible for PR upon arrival without even being working here? Is the government planning to provide a path to permanent residency for employed Ukrainians in the near future? Ukrainians were granted upon arrival temporary work permits only, most of which will expire in 2026. We are working hard. Our children already building their future here. We're paying taxes and embracing, which is more important, we're embracing the same democratic and cultural values.
Got it.
Thank you.
Premier?
The settlement of Ukrainians after the Russian invasion has been just a remarkable success story, not only of those who chose here, but also the community support. We looked at, we had 70,000 who came to Alberta alone, which is extraordinary. And when we looked at how many were requiring some kind of additional social supports after being here for a period of time, it's less than 2,000. So the vast, vast majority of those who came with means, started businesses, had skills, were able to work. And it is exactly the kind of economic migrants that we want to make sure that we are welcoming more of. The reason there isn't a pathway is that we had asked the federal government if we could choose more people to give permanent residence to. We managed to get them up to just over 10,000, and then they cut us down to 3,700. And we've been asking for them to increase it, and unsuccessfully. Quebec, meanwhile, gets to choose about 55% of the newcomers through their permanent residence program. So this goes to Michael's point. Why can't we negotiate a similar kind of arrangement so that there's more people that we're able to offer that to? And so that's one of the things that we're consulting with you on today.
100%. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mark Stammers. I'm from Red Deer. My question is, why is it that the immigrants that are coming in now make $6,500 a month when I can't even make that kind of money myself? And the reason that I bring this up to most of it is because what it's doing is it's starting the divide, and it's making it bigger for everybody. You got the Ukrainian people that I agree with, that man that was just up, that are working their butts off. I know one that's working in the provincial building just doing cleaning, and she can't even find status here. But yet other people are allowed to come in, and they take from the social services and all those things. And my wife can't even get anything on age as it is now, and we have to give back money, but yet these people get to keep it. And if they play the race card, they walk out scot-free. Not fair.
Do you want to address further? It's a federal.
I don't know how the federal government supports. I know that one of the things we had to push back on is that as people were arriving at the Calgary airport, they were just sending them down to our navigation center. And so we had to say, no, like if you're going to have a pathway, you've got to provide the supports. I don't know all of the different programs that are available at the federal level.
That's it. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Premier Smith, my name is Melba from Camrose. It's a rural community of about 18,000 people, home to 2,100 Augustana University students, including 400 international students. There are about 863 students in grades 10 to 12. In our 2023 consensus, we had 9,653 employed in the city. That is more than 3,000 youth and students that are already competed for limited local jobs. Despite this, the rural renewal stream continues to bring in foreign workers to rural Alberta through a fast-track permanent residency path. That is Alberta, not federal. Many of these positions are also supported federally by the subsidized wages. So my question is, why is the government of Alberta continuing to aggressively promote immigration and foreign hiring incentives in small communities like Camrose?
It could be, we've got a new immigration minister now, and it could be that we need to look at those different streams. Some of those were responsive to the fact that there were a lot of agriculture jobs that were going unfilled initially, and it could be that the original purpose ended up getting a bit off track. So we do have streams for tourism, which we've heard is also an area under pressure. But it could be with my new minister, we might need to take a look at that. So I'll take that away.
Thank you.
applied.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. That's why we're here. We'll take it away. Believe me. Go ahead.
Corwood Warwick from Stettler area again. We don't need the levels of immigration that we currently have if we have one simple thing. It's called reproduction. What is the government going to do to support the traditional family where a husband and wife can have children and one person stay at home to raise those children? That's all we need. We don't need the levels of immigration when we can create the children that we need for tomorrow today.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Brandy Bowman from Red Deer. I'm a double small business owner, and I'm also a volunteer in my community. I talk to sometimes hundreds of people a week, and we are facing teenagers, young Albertans can't find work. Everywhere that we look, there's no work available for these kids. We are very concerned, especially people like me with 15 and 20-year-old children. They're going to be living in our basement forever. That's not a life that they want. I mean, I don't care as a mom, but that's not a life they want. Like that, the Canadian dream is gone. It's not a thing anymore. And what can we do? Can we not put a stop to allowing some of this immigration into our province and actually allowing our citizens to succeed? Yes.
Thanks for the feedback. That we hear that as well. And just to put some numbers around it, when we normally have boom times, our youth unemployment tends to be higher, but it goes down to around 10 or 11%. That's kind of a normal level. It's slightly higher than what the background unemployment would be for older individuals, but it's now at 16%. So I think that your story is not uncommon. We hear that a lot. That is why we're having this consultation, is we don't control temporary foreign workers, asylum seekers, international students, and we only have a very small role that we play on economic migrants. So what we're asking is, should we be taking a greater role in that so that we can limit numbers and attract those here who can better assimilate into the economy?
Okay.
Hi, Miles Corsiato from Red Deer here. If Canada continues to bring in hundreds of thousands of immigrants every year, and we have little say in who these people are, how can we talk about sovereignty when any number of these people can come into our province at any time? If we don't have any control over our borders, how can we consider ourselves sovereign as a province or as a nation?
Hey, Dr. Aiken or Samita, whoever hits the mic first, can you communicate how it's different than when you came?
So when I came, my name is Dr. Aiken. I'm a doctor. I'm a family doctor. And when I moved from England to work in rural Alberta in Oyen, I had a doctor that had been working for 9 months straight and had a break. So I said, I'm going to jump in and come to rural Alberta with my family, drag my family, my wife with 3 kids, and we came to rural Alberta. And before we came in, I had a job. There was a they made sure that there was nobody else applying for the job. Nobody else wanted to work there, and I was the only one brave enough to go work that place. And I enjoyed the experience, and that is the beauty of Alberta. It should work for both parties. It should work for the immigrant and the people that are native in Alberta. And I think that balance is off now. And the feedback I've heard now is that, in what I've noticed I moved there about 10 years ago, it's a massive change now, that massive immigration, not actually the skill set that we're looking for, with very little control on the numbers. And that is putting huge pressure on health service, putting huge pressure on education, on schools, on housing, on cost of living. And, I'm so grateful I live in Alberta with an awesome premier who's fighting the fight to make sure that Albertans are protected from unregulated, uncontrolled, unvetted immigration, and that we have to stand our ground and support our premier and the government of Alberta to make sure that we have adequate regulation on immigration and make sure that our province can fight for that and protect the people who are local here in Alberta. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aiken. Samita?
I am a first-generation immigrant. When I moved here to Alberta 30 years back with 2 small kids, we moved because homes were unaffordable in Vancouver and Toronto, and jobs were easily available. now, the struggle is we have these immigrants that are coming in. They are taking away our children and grandchildren's jobs for just $2 more an hour. And therefore, we think we need to have some check stops in place so that our children and grandchildren can have a better life for which we moved here in the first place.
Thank you.
Benoit Trudeau, Sylvan Lake. My sister is Vietnamese. She was a refugee, a boat people in 1981 that was selected by an agent from the Quebec immigration right in Bangkok that was positioned there in a refugee camp. So Quebec, not only do they control their professional immigration, they control as well the refugee immigration. And when my parents vetted for our parents to come and immigrate in 1987, they were welcome to leave the province because they didn't want to learn French. So Quebec unashamedly have their immigration ministry called Ministry of Immigration and Integration. And if you don't sign that social contract after a little training, you're welcome to leave the province. So I believe we can do the same.
Okay. I've got us way behind. Way behind. One more.
All right. Matt Tanner from Red Deer again. I'll just try and keep it short and sweet. Number one, can Alberta have its own emergency alert system just to deal with these things? And two, can First Nations people have a leading role in Alberta if they choose to do so?
Well, let's ask our good friend, Stephen Buffalo, if he wants to weigh in on this subject. Stephen?
Well, obviously there's impacts with immigration, and we're seeing some of the impacts that we're feeling living under the Indian Act. So when some people come to the cities to live in the rural, moving away from the community, absolutely it's harder to get, say, renting an apartment, for example. You know, but you know, we'd have to leave this to the leaderships of each area. You know, the chiefs have to have a say. And again, I'm prepared to help our premier work with that and carry those initiatives through to see if the chiefs would be interested in having a lead role and having a say. But right now, a lot of the communities I talk to, they are feeling that same pinch too. Jobs and housing are one thing, you know, when they come to the cities.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we need to do a straw poll. We read the room pretty clearly there. Look, we've got one more video. We've got a couple other things to do tonight. So can we roll the provincial tax collection video?
Our next topic is the option of Alberta collecting all provincial personal income taxes, rather than having Ottawa do it for us. Today, when Albertans file and pay their personal income taxes, they do so through the Canada Revenue Agency, which then remits the provincial portion of those personal income taxes back to the provincial government. However, Alberta businesses file and pay their provincial corporate taxes directly to the provincial government. Quebec does it differently. They collect both personal and corporate income taxes directly from Quebecers, bypassing the CRA altogether. What if Alberta did the same? There would definitely be startup and ongoing administration costs, but it would also mean bringing good-paying jobs to Alberta instead of funding federal employees in other parts of the country. Under Canada's Constitution, levying and collecting taxes is an area of provincial jurisdiction, and Alberta could transition over the coming years to collecting our personal income taxes, as we do with corporate taxes now. So what are some of the benefits to Alberta collecting its own personal income taxes? 1. Better provincial tax policy. Currently, Alberta sets its own tax rates and credits, but definitions and treatments of income are still largely tied to federal rules, which limits our flexibility to implement more effective and competitive tax policy. We saw this recently when the federal government changed the rules on capital gains for doctors and other professionals, and Alberta was effectively forced to follow those same rules as it related to provincial personal income taxes. If Alberta were to collect its own taxes, we could tailor our entire tax framework to better reflect our economic realities and provincial policy goals, while declining federal changes to certain portions of tax policies that detrimentally affect provincial income tax policy. This could open the door to streamlining calculations and simplifying provincial income taxes for Alberta residents. 2. Jobs and economic opportunity at home. Collecting our own taxes would also mean establishing the infrastructure and staffing to support it, creating thousands of good, high-paying jobs right here in Alberta, instead of funding positions in Ottawa or other provinces. 3. More Alberta, less Ottawa. By moving away from the federal administration of the CRA and collecting provincial income taxes by ourselves, Alberta can exercise more direct control over a core aspect of self-government, thereby increasing our provincial independence from Ottawa. But there are also potential drawbacks to consider. 1. A long-term commitment. Establishing Alberta's own personal income tax collection agency would not happen overnight. Estimates suggest it could take up to 5 years to fully build out the necessary systems and staffing. This would be a major logistical undertaking that would require a sustained commitment from Albertans and their government. 2. Significant financial investment. The estimated cost to implement Alberta's own tax agency ranges from $750 million to $1.5 billion over several years. Once operational, the system could cost up to $750 million annually and require hiring as many as 5,000 new public employees. These are substantial expenses that must be weighed against the benefits. 3. Potential for added complexity. There are also practical implications for taxpayers and businesses. Albertans would need to file separate federal and provincial tax forms, although online filing would likely ease that burden. There may also be increased complexities for businesses and Albertans working in different provinces throughout the year. Now, tell us what you think about the idea of Alberta collecting its own personal income taxes.
Can I ask a question? Do we have to collect taxes at all? Of course, I know the answer is yes, but...
Can I just maybe get one of our tax experts here to weigh in? Because I think the video made it pretty clear. There was a gentleman who stood up and said, we should collect all the taxes and then just remit to Ottawa its share. Unfortunately, I don't see a legal way for us to do that. So that's why we're talking about if we were to collect our own taxes, it would only be our share. Ottawa would continue to collect its share. And we'd have to come up at some future point with a tax agreement if they wanted to vacate that field. So I just wanted you to know, I know that would be a very enticing thing to do if we could do it, but I don't think there's a legal way for us to do it.
Okay, great. So we're going to do this one for a few minutes, and then we're going to open it up to anything we haven't discussed, and just try and get to everything tonight. I hope you came here tonight with something on your mind. You'll save it for that portion and come on up and ask. Let's start over here.
Yeah, Jordan Staudinger, Red Deer County here. That's a great question from the moderator, and I think the answer actually would be no, we wouldn't actually have to charge any taxes. We have some people with Alberta Prosperity Project who have run the numbers, and the amount of wealth that Alberta has and the amount of wealth that we ship to Ottawa every year, we actually wouldn't have to pay any income tax here in Alberta. If we actually took the oil revenue and looked at it, that the amount of money that's coming out of that going to the rest of the country, no, we wouldn't actually have to pay any taxes. So yes, we should collect all of our taxes, and we would have leverage to have an actual say at the table with Ottawa.
Thank you, Jordan. Let's go to the other microphone.
Gord Tulk, Red Deer. First off, I'm adamantly opposed to making tax collection a make-work project. To argue that more jobs makes this a good idea is ridiculous. It increases complexity. Now we got 2 returns. Now we got 2 returns that we're paying our accountants and bookkeepers to handle. We already have different tax regulation rules in the province versus the feds, and the feds collect it through the return that they make us file. The proper way to go forward is to negotiate along with the other provinces with the federal government to allow the provinces, if they choose, to collect the taxes for the province and the federal government and then remit to the federal government. That makes tax collection more local and more accountable and less bureaucratic and less somebody hiding away in an office in Winnipeg or Ottawa who's delaying your tax return. That's the way forward, not to go on our own, but to work with the other provinces to have us have the option to collect federal and provincial taxes together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Corwin will work from Stettler.
So if I might make a comment, I don't think that's constitutionally possible. Sad to say.
I think it would have to be negotiated, and the question would be, would Ottawa give up that power? That would be, I would think, perhaps. I live in hope.
I think
Okay.
we should collect our own taxes, but not as it exists today. We should be taxing gross, not net revenue, so that it doesn't matter how much a company makes. If Walmart shuffles their profits from here to the U.S., what's stopping them? It's just an accounting trick. But if you tax gross, I don't care how much you spend to make the dollar you make, tax gross. That way, there is no loopholes. The tax code is simplified. Boom, done. You make $100,000, 2% tax rate. If you make $10 million, it's the same tax rate for everybody.
Okay.
And it's simple.
We'll bounce back and forth.
Actually, Gord kind of talked about a little bit what I was talking about, but I kind of disagree with him on the fact that it makes it more complicated, because if we get an Alberta pension plan here, we can set up an Alberta revenue agency that collects all of our payroll taxes, collects all of our provincial taxes and business taxes, and get that all set up in one lump sum, as opposed to doing these as separate entities. So, and I also believe that, I don't believe we're going to need 5,000 employees to get something like this set up. I mean, we have the technology now. There's a lot of ways to streamline taxes, and if we make sure that we simplify the tax code in Alberta, we can make returns quite easy and a lot less painless than they already are with the CRA.
Thank you.
John Reel from Ponoka again. Just a couple of things. First off, I think that pitching the idea that we would collect taxes in Alberta because we can then redistribute equalization payments more effectively is a pipe dream. What I do think is collecting taxes is a wonderful idea, particularly if we can negotiate the same deal Quebec has to collect all taxes, because it sets us up for the very sovereignty, Premier, that you are pursuing. So what we need to do is set up the system for collecting those taxes, including negotiating for the collecting of the federal taxes, so that when we are prepared for and have a referendum in favor of sovereignty, we're raring to go and we have nothing to prepare. It's already there.
Professor Toom or Andrew, do either of you want to weigh in on this topic?
Maybe, again, Michael does, because I thought you said that they have some, or maybe it was Ben Trudeau, maybe we need to get him up here, but that Quebec only collects their portion, but they have some kind of council that allows, who said that? Some kind of council that allows for them to check to see that the dollars that Quebec is entitled to do get returned to them. So maybe we do need to look at having that council. And they also do a number of different side deals where they have tax points that are transferred. I don't know if anyone's an expert on that, but I think it's worth looking at a couple of those things.
I did see Professor Toom nodding, but you called on Michael and you're the boss. So Michael will start there and then we'll go to Professor Toom.
Okay, I'm not sure, but my friends in Quebec tell me that they file a federal personal form and a Quebec personal form. So there is two forms. I'm a former tax accountant. I used to be very much against this idea. It just seemed like double administration. But just back to the point I've been making earlier, what I've seen is Quebec, with its ability to collect its own taxes and manage its own money and run its own immigration and police itself, has a lot more credible political power with Ottawa than we do. And so I've changed my mind that we need to be able to show that we can govern ourselves.
Trevor? Nope. Okay. Let's keep going up here. Where was I? Over here?
John Sador, Trochu, Alberta. One of the common things, I agree with all of these things, and I agree with Alberta independence, and I thank everybody on this panel for coming here and discussing this, and everybody in the room. The commonality between all of these things is, will Ottawa allow us to do all of these things? So we agree 80-20 mostly in this room for most of these topics, and I think that if you ask for permission for freedom, you're never going to get it. If you declare your freedom, that's where we can start. So if we agree that we want to do this, then we declare it, we don't ask for it. And that's where the referendum, I think, is maybe somewhat, it's pushing us down into this constitutional, will Ottawa give us freedom? No, we declare it. We come together as people and say, this is what we're doing. All right, good luck, guys. And anybody else who wants to do this in Canada, it's not about Canadians. Every Canadian is welcome. The government of Canada is not.
Thank you. Blaine.
Blaine Sellers from Calgary again. I'm so tired of hearing that it can't be done. I grew up, my dad was a welder. Every swather, combine, and tractor that pulled into the yard always got back out into the field. It never occurred to me that we wouldn't get it done. Premier Smith, during your leadership campaign, it sounded like you had the same attitude, that there's always going to be a way.
Thank you, Blaine. I think she still does. Over here.
Thank you so much. My name is Ranchelle, and I live in Sylvan Lake, and it's great to be here. More of a comment, I guess. I have two 27-year-olds. One is a stepson. I have a daughter, and a son who's 25, and I have two that live in Alberta. And when we've talked about what's happening in Alberta, the two that are here are hopeless. Those are the words that they use. They feel hopeless. They're looking to leave Canada unless something happens here in Alberta. And I just wanted to express that. I wish they were here with me. I know that they're not alone. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. I know that they're not alone. I've always loved Canada, and I love Alberta more. And it's a really weird place to be in a time of my life when I have children that are not able to afford things. My daughter has 3 jobs so that she can buy a house and get married. My son is at a school out of Victoria, and he is working 2 jobs, and my stepson is training to be a professional athlete, and he lives with us because he can't actually afford to be on his own. And this is what's happening. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's just open it up to whatever you want to talk about. Okay? And we'll start right there.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever you want to talk about within reason, okay? Within reason. It's been a pretty reasonable room tonight,
Bruce,
so let us know what's on your mind.
Jareen here, you said she'd
Yes,
go first.
bring that lady to the front of the line 100%, because I
Thank you
did
very
cut
much.
you off
I'm here
earlier.
all night.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Jareen Albright. I'm from Red Deer. I've lived in Alberta for 63 years. I collect CPP, and I can honestly say that I don't think our existing provincial government or any of the past governments in this province could manage the Alberta pension plan properly. If we look at what's happened to the Heritage Trust Fund, which was created in 1976 and still only has $27 billion, the Norway fund has $1.9 trillion, and our Heritage Trust Fund has been used as a piggy bank for most of the last 40 years. We have taken any income from that and used it in general revenues. In fact, it was used to build the Kananaskis golf course. So we've got a lot to prove here.
You got it. Thank you. Rapid fire over here. If somebody on the panel wants to weigh in on any of this, just show me a hand.
Only that I agree, which is why we changed the policy when I came in. When the UCP got elected, the Heritage Fund was at $16.9 billion, and we're approaching $30 billion in just 6 short years. So we're going to continue keeping the investment income in the fund and grow it to try to catch up.
Absolutely. Okay.
Bouncing back to collecting our own revenues and potentially working with other provinces to collect the federal portion as well. Politics is a game of pressure and incentives. If we hold the strings to the purse, we now have the leverage and we can change the incentive. And that's true for most of the things we've discussed tonight. If we can take control of the incentives that Ottawa is following, we change their behavior therefore.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, Bonnie Meyer, Red Deer. Premier, I've asked you this in your campaign, is why we can't have our own Receiver General. Because when I do my payrolls deductions every month and I have to send my provincial taxes to Ottawa, I don't like it. So you said back in your campaign that you were working on it. So it's been a few years.
That's what we're consulting on right now. It's a big bunch of money, and I think that's what we're trying to figure out. Is the money worth it for the benefits that we get? And we're just trying to get some feedback on that.
Cool, thanks.
Matthew Rowley again. On the issue of policing, will the referendum be limited to those who will be affected by it, or are we going to allow those who already have their own police forces and won't be affected by an Alberta police force to vote on that issue?
Oh boy, that's a good question.
Well, I often figured that we should reverse it for those who have a municipal force. Would you like to disband your municipal force and get the RCMP instead? And then those who have the RCMP, would you like to have an alternative force? I don't think that Calgary and Edmonton, who enjoy having their own police force, I don't know that they really should be deciding on that issue. So I think that there's some value in putting it community by community. At the moment, we're letting communities make that choice just by contacting us directly, but that would be something to consider.
Premier Smith, if I might, with all due respect.
Okay, well, you're not supposed to, but make it quick, okay?
No, he's next. I don't think there's a need for a referendum, because there wasn't one in 1917 when the province created the Alberta Provincial Police Force. I
thought that was you. Okay, good point.
My opinion only, I don't think we need it.
I guess you're following up on the last question. It's easy to get confused after a couple hours up here. Was there a question in it, though?
Yes, my question, yes. Lee Eddy with Red Deer County. Since I got so much time to talk, I think that if you really want to make the Eastern politicians, both federal and provincial, change their underwear, we should remove our supply management from the Canadian system and have our own, transition the quotas to Alberta only system, and then transition that gradually to a market system. Thank you.
Okay.
Just a quick question for the Premier. We had a brief conversation about a year and a half ago at the Premier's dinner here in Red Deer about DEI policies in the workplace. DEI policies being pushed through continuing competency programs with professional colleges, regulatory bodies. Just wondering, I know things have really, I know it's got pushed to the back burner. Things have really heated up with other topics and other businesses going on, but just wondering where that's at. Like, I know you guys had, you and Mickey had set up something about looking into this stuff with like 34 different regulatory bodies or something.
Just got a presentation on it on Monday. So it has to go through our cabinet policy approval process and our caucus approval process. And if all sails through, legislation in the fall.
Excellent.
Wade Collins from Sylvan Lake. In the early 80s, I was working in Hinton as a journeyman welder. My wife was working at the courthouse. We didn't work at one of the mills or the mines. We were just working for contractors when Trudeau Sr. introduced the national energy policy. And as a journeyman welder in a place where we had forestry, we had mining, we had pulp mills, we had oil and gas, I couldn't get a job as a journeyman welder. I had to take a job up a coal mine up northern BC. And then we moved the family up there after we sold our house. And so when I see that happening to this province again, I'm done talking. I once told a banker that I want this and I want it under these terms, and if you can't give it to me, we're done talking. And I walked out. He called me back.
Excellent. Hey, there's a couple of panelists we haven't heard from, and I know they offer perspective on a lot of things. So, Grant, you haven't said anything way down yonder, and Adam, with the Business Council of Alberta, just on what you've heard on some of these things as Albertans are impacted. Grant, you first.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. And we have to say, I think everyone here has to be thankful for Premier Smith for everything that she's doing for our province and carrying this message forward. From my perspective, what I've heard, and I work in the oil and gas sector, so I'm very interested in trying to really advance any extraction and development projects that we possibly can, whether it's in the oil sands, whether it's natural gas, but everything, and get it to world markets. So we're working hard, and it's with the backing of Premier Smith and her team that we're able to do that. So, and I think the pressure has to come as Premier Smith, Premier Moe, and I believe that the pressure, they're feeling it in Ottawa. So it's because of town hall meetings like this and getting the suggestions forward that we can actually make a difference in this country, and more importantly, make a difference for Albertans as we advance forward for the future of this province.
Thank you. Thanks. Adam, you represent so many businesses, so context on what you've heard as it would apply to the businesses.
Thanks, Bruce, and I'll echo thanks to the Premier for striking the panel, inviting me to be part of it, and I'll share that my members are as equally frustrated as you are in this room. They're trying to make investments, they're trying to create jobs, they're trying to expand operations, they're trying to bring prosperity to communities, but have continually been blocked by federal overreach, in being able to do what they want to do, what they can do, what they're ready to do, and that is to bring money and investment here to Alberta. And that we've repeated that message over and over again in Ottawa, that you are curtailing the prosperity not only of Albertans, but of Canadians across this country. And so this initiative sends a message to Ottawa. And whether we, to some of the points earlier, whether we get all of this or not, or whether we need to vote on them or not, from my members' perspectives, this sends a message to Ottawa that Alberta is frustrated. Albertans are not going to take the challenge anymore, that they're being blocked in the opportunities. And so I think this is a great initiative to send a resounding message to Ottawa that it's time to make a big change.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Abdul. I'm from Camrose, and I'm also from the University of Alberta Students' Union. I think when we were talking about sovereign and strengthen Alberta, a big portion of that is supporting our youth, and something that we hear from our students and something we have heard from the crowd is youth unemployment. And a program that existed for 45 years, or around 45 years since 1972, was Summer Temporary Employment Program that offered wage subsidies to non-profit municipalities, small businesses to hire 2,500 to 3,000 Canadian students from 15 to 24. So that is one of the hopes we have, to have that program back, to again have 3,000 students to be hired in summer from small businesses.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Blaine Gregg. I'm from Leduc, Alberta, one-time resident of Red Deer. First of all, please do not enact any of these issues without going to a referendum, because we don't need a top-down government assuming what the population wants. We need the Albertans to decide one way or the other. But the real elephant in the room, and it's come up a few times, is the question of a nation of Alberta. And, you know, that's really what's fueling a lot of this, in my view. And there's so many unanswered questions that don't come up because we talk about it emotionally rather than logically. We don't know what we're going to do about passports or currency, or how we deal with treaty rights or border security or anything like that. Those kind of things need to be part of the conversation, and I'm not hearing that beyond the emotion much yet. What I'm most saddened about is, Madam Premier, you haven't taken a public stance on how you feel about the Alberta independence question.
Sir,
Any chance you do that today?
You're past 45 seconds, and she's been very, very clear on that. Thank you.
Any chance you'd take a position on that today?
Sure.
When I call the
I
mic,
mean,
thank you. Go ahead, Premier.
Yeah, I've said I support Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada. I guess the way I look at it is I want to get a pipeline built to the northwest BC coast, and if we are part of Canada, I have to deal with BC. If we're not part of Canada, I still have to deal with BC. I think it'd be a whole lot easier for me to have those negotiations in the table that I'm at right now with the premiers that I have right now, because they all share the same objective. And so I have to persuade the federal government to remove the 9 bad laws so that we can get that investment climate. And I've asked for Albertans to give me a chance to do that and give the Prime Minister a chance, but not forever. Like, he's got to make a decision on whether he's going to do these things pretty darn quickly. But we also have a question that has been filed with Elections Alberta by Thomas Lukasik that has a do you want to remain, which is sort of the flip side of the question. And I guess if that gets enough signatures to be put on a ballot, that's when you'll have more forums to address the kind of issues that you're talking about. Because our forum is attempting to address things from the context of being sovereign within a united Canada. So that's why we haven't had discussions on those other matters.
Thank you. Over here.
Hello, Premier. My name is Arun. I'm a huge fan and supporter. One thing that I just want to bring attention to the panel, especially as we're thinking about tax collection and all of that with the federal government. Quebec is not part of the interprovincial agreement, so when physicians take care of Quebec patients, they actually don't get paid. They kind of do it just out of the goodness of their heart, and it's my understanding that hospitals also don't get paid. And so because Quebec is one of the only provinces not part of the interprovincial agreement, I think all the other provinces foot the bill. I experienced that in Ontario and in New Brunswick working there. And so I just want to bring that to the panel's attention, because you could probably get some support from other premiers too, knowing that they're probably spending millions of dollars. So tons of people from Gatineau, Quebec, just routinely go to Ottawa to get health services because they can't access care in Quebec. And so millions and millions of dollars are actually being putted by other provinces to take care of Quebec patients. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
I don't know if anybody is an expert or can quantify that. Anybody?
Well, I think we should get granular and figure out what that number is so I can send a bill to Francis Wallago, and then maybe we'll see if he can pay us for our share. So let me look into that.
Let's do it. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Lorna from Red Deer. I sat with colleagues a couple of days ago to do your survey online, and somebody else brought up the same point. That online survey with Alberta Next is statistically irrelevant because you have no options. Only if you agree and how much you agree. There is no option on there for disagreement or for a change. It would be like saying everybody in this class has an A+, because we're not going to count anybody that's below the A level. We need difference. So that's the first part. And that's why I'm here on my own, as they said I was wasting my time. I think also part of, just one more thing. One of your things is that we are challenging the Constitution challenging our country from the wrong way. I think we should challenge it from inside and build it that way.
I think we exactly know where you're coming from. Thank you. Go ahead.
Can I just maybe say there is a section in the survey that is a write-in section that if we've missed anything, if none of these things matter to you, tell us what does matter to you, and maybe that's part of why we're opening it up right now. The items that we identified are ones that we have heard from various forums, town halls, the previous Fair Deal panel. But if there's something we're missing that we need to do, that there's a big issue that we should be addressing a different way, like the gentleman who mentioned supply management, that was a really novel concept I hadn't considered. Maybe there's other issues like that, but do know that that's the purpose of the survey as well, is to give you that write-in section. And I don't know if Bill can tell us how many people have written in, but I thought we were over 50,000 people who had participated in the survey so far. We're going to collate all of that and be able to identify some of those other issues.
Sorry, Bill, you can come let me know. I can let people know. Go ahead, sir, while we wait.
Okay, Fable the communist again. I got some boos for saying nationalize the oil field, so I want to clarify what I mean by that. That doesn't mean giving it to Ottawa, but taking it out of the hands of the CEOs and putting it into the hands of Albertans, to our own nation, if you want to think about it that way. The only possible responsible government is one of democracy at all levels of society, from the provinces all the way down to our workplaces. We have all the resources we need to make sure the needs of all Albertans are met. The people and workers of Alberta should get to decide how to use the vast wealth and industry of our province to meet those needs, rather than allowing that wealth to sit idle in the bank accounts of a few billionaires.
Thank you. Okay, over here.
Thanks. With regards to opening the Constitution, I'm just wondering about what sort of threats we should anticipate, being as we have a somewhat hostile government out and down east there. They've been kind of tough on Alberta here. And so with regards to opening the Constitution, there'll be other interests that will want to make changes in the Constitution, and it ends up in kind of an omnibus thing that you have to agree to a whole bunch of concessions as well. Yeah. So what sort of threats can we anticipate there if we open up the Constitution there? I'd like to hear from Mr. Buffalo as well, what his thoughts might be.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Well, obviously right now this current system is not good for anybody, especially under the Indian Act. And you know, the fact that that we acknowledge treaty now is one thing. But there's still a lot of work to be done. You know, there's still some concepts we got to do. There's some communication gaps between the chiefs and our premier and the leadership in the cabinet. But you know, going forward, you know, we have to change the system. You know, and the way we do it, working together is probably the best thing. You know, First Nations bring a lot to Alberta. You know, my friend Chief Warrior Crowfoot, under a settlement, under treaty, under the Supreme Court ruling, they had a settlement of $1.8 billion, I think it was. They put $400 million into Alberta's economy. Treaty rights in northern Alberta under the cows and plows, settlements are coming. Keehuan and Frog Lake got their settlements. They're putting a lot of that money into Alberta's economy. So when we look at treaty rights and where we're going, it's an opportunity. But right now, as it stands, First Nations, the leaders right now do not support separation. You know, not only because there's a federal relationship, not so good, but more importantly, there's a covenant. And until we start dealing with some of the communication, start working together, it's really tough. You know, and if you want to help, if you really want to talk about this, go visit the local First Nation. You got two over here to the west of you, Sunchild and Ochis. You know, go talk to them if you really want to separate. And then lastly, I'll just say this. You want to continue to help, let's stop the paternalism. And, you know, more importantly, something I've been impacted when I was a young man in this city is the racism. We got to get past that and start looking at each other as, if we're all Albertans or all Canadians, we got to look at it that way, not look down at each other. You know, but going forward, it's something that we all have to work together towards.
I can't cut off a former teammate. I used to hide behind him, actually, is kind of how it went. Go ahead.
Can I just...
oh, sorry.
I don't know if, again, those with longer memories than me, if you can remind me why the Charlottetown Accord failed, because someone was asking what would be the risk in opening up the Constitution now. Clearly, Albertans and the rest of the country did not want that option. I think one of them was distinct society for Quebec that would have guaranteed them a certain percentage of seats. I think it was 25%, even as their population declined. Seems like we've kind of done that anyway, by the way we've done the division on seats. But were there any things that you remember that were real stinkers in Charlottetown Accord that might come back if we got back to a convention?
My memory of it was, and something that I personally really objected to, was the idea that Quebec was a distinct society and somehow was more special than the rest of us. And after working there for 25 years, I've now realized it's just a statement of fact. They are really different than us, right? It's very distinct, very different. But the other thing I would make that I also think today, they don't have a monopoly on that. I mean, Alberta is a state of mind. It's an incredible, incredible culture, Western Canada. And when I think about, just to compare it to Europe, nobody tells somebody from Denmark, the European Union doesn't tell them how to teach their kids Danish, right? And we have distinct cultures in our country as well, from West Coast to the Prairie Provinces, Central Canada, Quebec, which is obviously distinct because of the language difference, and the Maritimes. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with, just like a Danish person calls themselves European, that an Albertan could call themselves Canadian. But that's exactly how I feel about it. I think we have a very distinct place, and I don't think Quebec has a monopoly on that. But I do agree today, they definitely are distinct.
Thank you. Okay, so let's cut the time to 30 seconds. Let's add 5 or 10 minutes here if we could for everybody and try and get through as many as we can. I'm going to ask the panel to hold off. And obviously, Premier, we'll give you some time at the end to sort of bookend this thing. But go ahead.
My name's Jeffrey Rath. I'm from Foothills, Alberta. So, Premier, the first thing I wanted to say, with the greatest of respect, when you say there's no legal mechanism to stop sending taxes to Ottawa and collecting 100% of the taxes in Alberta, with the greatest of respect, you're incorrect. The legal mechanism is Section 1, Sub 3 of the Clarity Act, and that's voting Alberta the hell out of Canada on a clear question.
Thank you, Jeff.
Now, and then my last point on that is simply, on a moving forward basis, I'd like to see a straw poll in this room, and that's one, not do we want to spend another 5 or 10 years bashing our heads against an unamendable constitution versus how many people in this room want a clear vote on independence within the next 12 months.
Okay.
So thank you.
Let's go over here.
Gord Tulk, Red Deer. First, Norway has a $1 trillion heritage fund because it hasn't been paying equalization for 50 years. Second, Meech Lake, I was in the room when Clyde Wells ended Meech Lake. It was over the Triple E Senate. It's still the sour point. This confederation will not survive unless we have reform of the Constitution. We are the only province with basically a ticking time clock on a referendum. We need to have clarity. We need to know what we're voting for and against. We need to have a constitutional convention, a full-blown one, in the spring of 2026. before we have a referendum. We need to know what we're doing. We need to practice our due diligence.
Thank you. If we do 30 seconds, I bet we can get through like 10, 20 more people. Go ahead.
My name is Eric. I'm from Edmonton. July 19th is the deadline for the Prime Minister or the unelected Canadian representative to the WHO to send a letter of dissent to the WHO to opt out of the tyrannical medical, pharmaceutical, social, and financial obligations of the 2024 International Health Regulation Amendments. Will the provincial government pressure the WHO official of Canada to opt out of the IHR regulations before the 19th of this month so that Albertans are not bound to obey the harmful dictates of the corrupted WHO?
Go ahead.
I'll just, my officials tell me that health is provincial jurisdiction, and as a result, we have our ability to chart our own course.
That's right.
And I will, and I've said we put all the mechanisms and changes in place with our Public Health Act to assert that we in Alberta and at the cabinet level, we have the right to make our own choices on these things. So I'll look into this, but the word that I've been given is that this is provincial jurisdiction.
Yes, provincial jurisdiction, but if we could make sure that that letter goes to whoever it needs to go to opt out.
Thank you.
Whether it's probably directly to the WHO, because I don't want my...
Guys, 30 seconds, okay? We'll get to more people. Go ahead.
Okay, Bernard Trudeau, I will rapid fire that. Secretariat of Canadian Relations for Fiscal Inequality in Quebec, report Executive Council, Statistic Quebec as well as the organization that challenged Statistic Canada on everything. The Charlatan Accord failed because of 5 reasons. I was in the campaign in 92. The Caisse de dépôt de placement, the retirement fund of Quebec, has only 100 billion less than the CPP. They own the Cross Iron Mill in Calgary, other stuff, other Canadian asset. And there's a doctor here in Red Deer that makes surgery in Quebec for knee surgery because he can rent a surgery room down there.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm Calder from Crossfield. I want to clarify the reason why the cost of housing is going up. This is not due to immigrants taking housing. There are over 30,000 empty homes in Calgary alone. The issue is that most of these homes are owned by large real estate companies and kept to empty to speculate on the housing market to profit off the rising cost of the housing that lets the rest of us suffer, like 2008. The real reason for the rising cost of housing and living is the bosses and billionaires who also refuse to pay us the wages that we work for, not the people coming from other countries to try to make a living like the rest of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Wendy Pitt, and I have a couple of things I'd like to say. First is thank you for bringing a voice back to the province and inviting dialogue. It's been a long time since we've been able to have decent conversations about things that really matter. One of the things that is on my dream list would be a change in how crime is being dealt with, which is, how about like for repeat offenders, maximum or the minimum, how do you say it? They get the maximum for
like a minimum sentence.
Minimum sentence,
You bet.
Geez.
You bet, Wendy. And we chatted about it earlier. 100% agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got a couple of minutes left, so we can save the time to mingle with the panelists. Go ahead.
This is Sandra Boudreau from Innisfail. We've seen corruption in Ottawa. We've seen them have scandal after scandal. You see, they've stamped on our rights in the province. You've had to have so many legal battles. How can you ask us to continue to support Ottawa when they see no consequences for their actions?
Thank you.
My name is Wilf Massey from Red Deer South. And in 2024, we at the AGM, we had a policy resolution number 12. And in that, it was recognizing the importance of CO2 to life and Alberta's prosperity by implementing the following measures: banning net zero targets, removing the destination of CO2 as a pollutant, and recognizing that CO2 is the foundational nutrient for all life on Earth. So,
thank you.
My question is, and Danielle, we love you. We love you as our premier. You're doing some great things, and we highly respect your challenge, your courage to face that Ottawa guy. But you know, we hear from you, or we hear from others in our Alberta government, this net zero thing and decarbonizing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely foolish. It's a fundamental nutrient for our health and
Thank
life.
you. Thank
so
you.
we have to have it. It's higher than it is now.
Thank you. You know what else is foolish is thinking I can keep you guys to 30 seconds. That's not going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. So we've got some time. Premier, I'm going to ask you to bookend this, okay? What you've heard tonight, summarized, how you're feeling, what you're thinking. There's many on the panel we didn't hear from. I specifically didn't ask the elected representatives just so we could share some of the time. And I think, Melody, we somehow missed you, one of our ag experts on the end. We're going to do a lot of these. I promise to be better, okay? Premier, can you give us your thoughts? And then I'd like a chance to maybe take some pictures with you and mingle with the crowd.
Sure. I have a couple of things. I wish you guys could all sit beside Trevor Toom, because he's been able to give some really interesting stats for me as we've gone along. Just going back to a couple of the issues that we discussed about how much money Quebec would generate if they just charged market rates for their electricity. They would generate $1.5 billion worth of revenue for every 1 cent more per kilowatt hour they charge. And they're 4 cents below the average. So just right there, they'd be able to generate $6 billion worth of revenue if we push them on it. To the gentleman wondering about, well, how low can the transfer for Alberta pension plan be for us to still have the same contributions? And it's a pretty low number. It's $20 billion. So all we would need was a transfer of $20 billion in order to maintain the contributions. Anything higher than that allows for us to reduce contributions but still pay the same benefits. I thought you'd be interested in knowing that. What I am hearing is this room, and that's why we're doing 10 of these, and we're doing the online survey. This room seems very persuaded by the Alberta pension plan and putting it to a vote. This room seems very persuaded by the idea of an Alberta provincial police, but not necessarily putting it to a vote. The issue around taxes, mixed, and I can totally understand why. I think there'd be enthusiasm if we could do more like they do in Europe, and we collect the taxes and then just remit Ottawa their share, a much smaller share than they're taking today, by the way. But there are maybe some mechanisms we can look at to keep more of those dollars here. I'm really hearing the connection that people are feeling between the young people not having the same opportunities as we did, and difficulty getting jobs and houses, and the connection to making sure that we have a sustainable level of newcomers coming into our province. So I think that I'm hearing some support for how we get our arms around that. Some of the new ones that I had heard were the issue of supply management, creating our own Alberta version of supply management, maybe as a pathway to a market system, or maybe just because it would stick our finger in the eye of Quebec, because we do not get our share of quota. I think we have 12% of the population and we only get 7% of the quota. So that might be one we want to do a little consultation on. And the issue around a Canadian constitution, I'm hearing, is complicated, that there is a real appetite to fix some of these things that are just foundational. But we know that once you open that up, you could end up having provinces stuff a bunch of things in there that we would have to compromise too much in order to agree to. So this is a complicated process. I'm just so grateful for the generosity you've had with your time and sharing it with us. Continue to send, if you haven't filled out the survey, please go do that. If we missed anything that you wanted to add for us to consider, put that on the list as well. As I mentioned last year, or the first time we did this, we had 25 recommendations that came out of it. And I think we've either substantially acted on or are on the way to about 20 out of the 25. So this process matters to us. And thank you again for participating in it today.
So we'll leave some time for the panelists to chat with you all. And if you'd like a picture with the Premier, I'll get Josh raise his hand. We can line up over here and we'll do that. And the only other thing I'd say to Red Deer is thank you for being the kickoff city for us. You guys have been great. Can we thank our panelists, the Premier, and all of you? Thank you.